Jastin, A through Z.
V.
It's really the only answer, isn't it?
Yeah. Only answer tonight.
Yeah, unfortunately, yesterday, as of the time of this recording, the legendary Val Kilmer did pass away. Really sucks. That man influenced young Sterling in so many ways. That sounds like I had a crush on him. I might have.
In what ways? I didn't know this.
I mean, Iceman in Top Gun. But
fair, yeah.
He was also, for better or worse, you know, we're not going to debate the quality of the movie, but he was also Bruce Wayne. He was a Batman. He also did Ghost in the Darkness, which is a movie I am unreasonably obsessed with. He also did Island of Dr. Moreau, which is a horrendous movie, but also one of those weird obsessions I have. It is garbage. I don't recommend anyone ever watch this movie. But if you ever say, hey, Sterling, want to watch Island of Dr. Moreau? I will emphatically say yes, only if you're talking about the remake, which is the one he's in. I won't watch the original. I have to watch the movie that is a dumpster fire. There's also this really great documentary of the making of that movie. And I own it, and I cannot think of the name of it. Lost Soul, The Doom Journey of Richard Staley's Island of Dr. Moreau. Oh, it's fantastic. And from everything I've heard, it is equal parts studio interference, Marlon Brando, and Val Kilmer as to why that movie sucks. But I will say this. If you ever want a masterclass in how to completely overact in every single scene you are in a movie, watch Val Kilmer in that movie. And I mean that 100% as a compliment. But yeah, I had this long history. Oh, what was it? The Saint. Loved him in The Saint. Yeah, I had this big relationship with that man. At least in my head. Lots of stuff with Val Kilmer.
Fair enough.
But unfortunately, he did pass away. I think technically it was from pneumonia, or most likely pneumonia. They're not going to know this quickly. But, you know, which is only going to be made worse by the fact that the man had throat cancer, you know. So. But yes, unfortunately, Val Kilmer did pass away. You guys got anything you want to add? Oh yeah, he was in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and Willow. Oh God.
Yeah, I was about to mention those, especially like Willow. That was one of those movies that was just kind of one of those movies growing up that we all knew about and talked about. So that was something that I thought about whenever I heard the news of his passing. Some favorites of mine, Tombstone.
I'll Be Your Huckleberry. Have you ever seen a sexier person deliver a line whilst also having tuberculosis?
There you go. You mentioned The Ghost of the Darkness. That was a good mention. Heat with him and Al Pacino was a great movie. Man, I really thought that was good. I mean, he's just kind of been one of those actors where just over the years where he's done so much stuff, and that documentary that he did that kind of highlighted his life,
Val,
a few years ago, called Val. What was it, 2020, 2021? One of those.
Yeah.
Man,
it was right around the time Maverick came out.
That was great, but it was also heartbreaking and reflective and very interesting how he filmed so much of his life, you know? It was that's definitely something that I would recommend. I mean, it's easy to recommend things like Heat and Tombstone and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, but if you haven't seen Val, watch that. Like if you're a fan of Val Kilmer and you haven't seen that, I think if you're a fan of this actor, everyone should see that. So, yeah, just wanted to put that out there. You know, he was one of the good ones, man. We definitely lost one of the good ones. So, yeah.
He was also the voice of Moses in Prince of Egypt and God, actually.
Oh, sure was.
Yeah, I think my Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is probably one of my favorites, but also the first thing I ever saw him in was the Batman movie he was in. And so, like, that was my first exposure to him. And then, of course, you know, obviously seeing things after that, I'm like, oh, yeah, that was the guy that was in Batman. So, yeah, definitely those. Like on one of my favorite shows, Psych, they had like this running joke about always mentioning Val Kilmer because of how legendary he is. And they got him to do like a cameo in the last episode, which I always remember because I'm like, as much as they talked about this man in the entirety of the show, and then they got him to do like a cameo was like the coolest thing to see. So yeah, I think those are probably the ones that are like things in my mind when I think of Val Kilmer. But yeah, I need to see Tombstone. I haven't seen it. I know. I had a whole thing where
Ooh, you gotta do
westerns
that.
just weren't my thing, but I know it's a
Tombstone
good
is
movie.
everyone's thing. Oh,
That's fair.
I don't give a fuck. Tombstone is everyone's thing.
Well, I was being adventurous at one point, and I watched the newer was it True Grit? And I was like, you know what? This is actually a really good movie.
Oh, yeah.
And then The Harder They Fall was good. Like there are good ones out there, but this was at a time when I just hadn't really watched them, and I was like, whatever. But yeah, I think now I need to go back and rectify that issue.
Westerns are very complicated because it's weirdly the most overrated and most underrated genre simultaneously, because all those old actors in westerns that they're legends. No, they're not. Play the same role in 98 movies. No, they ain't acting. They ain't legends. They ain't that shit. But also, like, when it comes to just movie history, though, westerns have an insanely deserved, spot in that. And also, when westerns are good, they're good.
No, that's fair. I mean, and like, obviously, him as Iceman is really, really great too. Like, one of the things that I love about his character, and that is just how he's technically portrayed as like the antagonist and everything, right? But like, after everything goes down and everything happens with Goose, he's just like, there's like a moment, like one scene when he's just like, he wants to say something really harsh to Tom Cruise's character, and then was like, you know what, I'm gonna hold back. I got to reserve it because I know that you just lost your friend or whatever. So I love how he did that performance. You know what I mean? Like, it was just really like, it's so subtle, and it's so easy to like hate the character if you don't like think about those parts of the movie. But he just brought like a different form of life to Iceman, and even in the second movie, like, you're just like, I mean, like, he was the little moment he was in it was great.
I love that you brought up Maverick and Iceman, because it's one of those great things about an 80s movie where he was the villain because he was right. Like,
Yep.
he's the villain because Maverick was too reckless.
Yeah, it's like, hey, let's not be stupid.
And he had the audacity to call out Maverick for being reckless. When he's like, I don't want to be up there with you when you're doing your crazy man bullshit. Like, no, that's bad. And everybody's like, oh man, can you believe that this man has the audacity to like say, hey, maybe in jet planes we shouldn't be dangerous with each other? That scumbag.
And I know everybody like was obsessed with Tom Cruise at that point in time, like as a heartthrob. Young Val Kilmer, it was something different. I'm just saying.
It was Val Kilmer for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, he's even like when he got older, he was still like a handsome man, but like Iceman version of him, I'm like, he's far and away a better looking man than Tom Cruise in that movie to me.
Oh yeah, he was absurd. And then him as was it Mad Madigan in Willow, like with the long hair being the scallywag.
Yeah. I mean, and it's been cool to see like people like celebrities doing tributes to him on socials and stuff, because everybody's been like, no, he was just actually a genius. Like he was just a genius at what he did. And he was a complex person, but he was like a hard worker and just fun to be around. Like it's just cool to hear everybody kind of in unison having kind of that same opinion about him.
But yeah, go watch The Island of Dr. Moreau. See the madness. I don't know what it is. It's not good. It is notoriously a horrible movie. Watch it. In other news, Marvel had the weirdest cast announcing for a movie I think I've ever seen, where they spent like 2.5, 3 hours, whatever the fuck it was, an absurd amount of time just filming some chairs. Very weird. I know everybody's all up in arms because they're like, oh, some of the original X-Men are going to be in this movie. Okay, I guess. I don't know. It's very weird. I think that shook me, how weird that announcement was. Because he spent like 10 minutes per chair. And they had like 27,000 chairs. But hey, Avengers Doomsday is happening at some point. And I also think it's really weird when they're like, hey guys, the Fantastic Four are going to be in this movie. It's really kind of a little hard to get excited about that when you haven't seen them yet. Like, it's just weird, like to act like that's an announcement when I'm like, but their movie hasn't come out yet. Let's see that.
That's fair. Yeah, like,
and also they weirdly spoil the Thunderbolts.
What did? Oh, Fantastic Four or the
announcement?
Oh,
it kind of tells you who lives or who dies in Thunderbolts if you look at the cast.
I guess I'm glad I didn't watch the whole thing. I mean, weirdly, the thing I heard most about, or the person I heard most about that people were excited for, was Alan Cumming. Everyone was super pumped about him coming back, and I was like, okay, fair. I wasn't expecting it, but I get it, you know.
Because of all the X-Men people, he's the one that hasn't been back in a while.
Yeah. And his character was good from what I remember. Yeah, he was good at the, what's his name?
That is probably one of the best opening sequences to a superhero movie out there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What is his name? In
Nightcrawler?
Nightcrawler, yes.
Kurt Wagner.
Yeah.
One thing they know how to do is build some hype for something. There's just nothing like the Marvel hype train. So
you know what
it was, but then that's something that over the years they've always been good at, is just building hype and anticipation for a movie, and all the questions about people going, well, are the X-Men going to be in this? Or at some point, are they going to all come back? Or some of them coming back? Or, that had been a lingering question with fans for a long time is what exactly is going on with the X-Men, and you know, how exactly are they going to do this? How are they going to, and just seeing some of those casting chairs and seeing people get excited about it, at least you know, okay, they're definitely going to be involved in the movie. And then a lot of the same actors are coming back. So it answers some questions, but it leaves more questions too. And then there were people missing, like, you know, there were people commenting about, well, where was Tom Holland's chair and all of this kind of stuff. So there are people like, well, there was no Spider-Man chair. So like, but that's what you want to do. You want to get people talking, and they didn't even have to show any footage. And they built up all that hype like that. And that's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. And then it ending with, and even though it was different, I don't know, I thought it was kind of cool. It was kind of well thought out. And then with it ending with
RDJ.
With why does his name escape me? Robert Downey Jr. at the end of that, you know, it was kind of neat. You know, you built all that hype and you didn't have to show really any footage or anything at all. So,
you know, and that's fair, Jastin, you know, because for everybody that was like me, where it's very weird, we're talking about it. I mean, ultimately,
that's all you want people to do.
We're, as much as I didn't like it, I'm doing exactly what they want anyway. I mean, you know, so like, yeah, that's good. You know, that means it's at least doing what they wanted. So even if I think it's weird, I have to say it's a success, though. You know,
yeah,
that's what it is. With that, though, some more announcements have come out from CinemaCon this year. We're getting a John Wick animated prequel that is supposed to be the animated story of The Impossible Task. So we're getting that. Donnie Yen is getting a spin-off movie for his character, directed by Donnie Yen.
That's cool.
I'm pumped about that, actually.
And Chad Stahelski and Keanu Reeves have said they are coming back for John Wick 5. So that's great news.
Yeah, for sure.
The one thing I'm excited about with that animated movie is it's one of those movies that I don't need, and I think that that's why it's going to work. Like, if I never found out what he did for The Impossible Task, I'd be fine. But it's also kind of cool to find out. Like, it works on both ways like that. Like, if I just never found out, okay. It's kind of like the whole, like, I've seen him kill people with a pencil. And every time he grabs a pencil, they don't show those deaths. They'll show every death in a movie. But if that man gets his hand on a pencil, they'll fade to black and they show him afterwards. It's the same type of thing. As, you know, and I kind of like the fact that they're going to animate it. You know, I think that just kind of adds a flavor to it. Because I think you could do it in such a way with animation that you could almost make it like a mythology story, where you can kind of make it a little bit more fantastical, because you don't have to say it's the actual story of, it's just somebody telling the story of. So it can have a mythos, it can have an exaggeration, it can have a fantastical element too, because it's just somebody telling the story of the impossible task of the Baba Yaga.
He's going to do the voice, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Keanu, okay.
I would assume so. I mean, I don't know why he would be coming back for John Wick 5 but go, you know what? Somebody else.
Right.
They've also recently announced they are already working on the How to Train Your Dragon 2 live action sequel.
Damn, okay.
No time wasted.
Right.
None.
Yeah.
They got to make up for the Snow White.
I mean,
Different company.
yeah. And I also
Oh, that's right. They're not Disney. My bad.
It's DreamWorks.
My bad. DreamWorks. My bad.
And I did also hear an announcement about like the Beatles biopics that they're going to be doing, which my problem with it is it doesn't need to be 4 separate movies about each of them. They should just do one about all of them.
They're doing a Beatles cinematic universe.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, it's a bit much, but I do like their casting choices. I just wish it was one movie with all of them.
Yes.
And not, you know.
So I want to say in 2026, they're releasing one movie a month for 4 months, each one, directed by Sam Mendes. It's like a story about each Beatle. Yeah.
I mean, just put them all together in one movie and like let it be that. Because I mean, it's going to be Barry Keoghan, I think, is Ringo. Joseph Quinn is going to be George Harrison. Paul Mescal is going to be Paul McCartney, and then Harris Dickinson is going to be John Lennon. And I especially Harris Dickinson, like I think he's phenomenal.
What the fuck is he from?
He was in Iron Claw. He was the first brother that died, the very charismatic brother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And he's in I don't know, he's in a few other things. He's in Baby Girl. Jastin saw that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's in a couple of things, but I think that's going to be really good. And I'm curious about Joseph Quinn as George Harrison because I don't know. I feel like it's going to be a first time where he's kind of like a lead in a movie. So it'll be interesting to see that.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff with it. Also, I don't like the Beatles, so I'm not going to ever get that excited.
That's my thing. I'm like, it's fine. I understand, like, you want to tell the story of this very historic band, but I'm a little bit like where I'm like, eh. But the casting choices make me more excited for it.
I don't know. It's about musicians, so I wonder if they're going to try to tell the story in a interesting way, or is there going to be?
It is Sam Mendes, who has a very, I mean, like most people in Hollywood, misses in hits. He did Skyfall, but he's also done some bad movies. I just don't remember. I don't know why it's escaping my head.
He also didn't he do 1917? That was great too.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, that was great.
But there's something else he did very recently where I'm like, ew. Let's see, director. No. No credits. Director. Whoa. IMDb went a little crazy on me for a second. Yeah, Skyfall, Spectre, 1917, Road to Perdition, American Beauty, Revolutionary Road. Oh, he's doing a lot more stuff I guess I just like.
I didn't know he produced the Penny Dreadful shows.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, we'll see closer to it. We'll see what it's about. There's one other big thing I could have sworn was announced. And I am not remembering. Oh, no.
Oh, I don't know if this was it or not, but the Spider-Man announcements. Spider-Man Brand New Day with Tom Holland, July 31st, 2026, and Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. They're targeting June 4th of 2027. That's a long wait. So, but yeah, those got release dates.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I could have sworn there was something else, but maybe it was the Spider-Man stuff I was thinking in my head. They were missing. Oh, yes. Coyote versus Acme. The WB movie that was thought to be lost to David Zaslav just deciding no one should see it. Looks to actually be coming out next year. Catch Up Entertainment bought it. And they, for $50 million, and should be coming out next year.
Okay. I wonder if that has anything to do with that Looney Tunes movie that's out now.
I think partially it does, which did not financially do that well either. But Catch Up Entertainment actually helped distribute that.
Okay.
They also did the new Hellboy, which is a movie. So
that exists. That's good.
Yeah,
It's
it
nice
does
to
exist. Yeah. And if you have any thoughts about that or curious about that movie, I don't know, go listen to the episode me and Heather did some months ago. Anyway, anything else?
I'm good.
All right.
Yeah.
It is it's time to whistle while we work, which is a very discriminatory song for people that can't whistle.
Yeah. Me
Like
being
myself.
one of them. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I am a notorious can't whistler.
Yeah. I was always sad I couldn't do that. I couldn't snap for the longest time.
Really? I've always been good at
And
snapping.
I could finally do that, but whistling never got it down.
Yeah. Cannot whistle. Oh. Song.
Somebody will listen to me.
Nobody knows anything but you.
All right. Are you ready?
Yes.
Come on.
Cinema Slayers.
Hey, Cinefans, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Slayers podcast. I'm Sterling, and as always, I can't keep that cadence up. That's a lot of work. As always, I'm joined by Heather and Jastin. Tonight, we're going to talk about what we liked, didn't like, and everything in between with the new 2024 live-action remake of Snow White. We will go spoiler-free recommendations and scores, and then into a more spoiler-centric section with time codes in the description to allow you to jump around in both audio and video formats if you so require. With all that, I just have to go. I have to go first. It's burning a hole in my chest. I have to relieve the pressure.
You must have really enjoyed this. I'm excited to hear what you
So
have
let
to
it
say
out.
about it.
This movie is probably the most singular movie I've ever seen. And by that, I mean there's only one singular thing that is worth a damn in this whole movie. And that's Rachel Zegler. Especially when she sings. Outside of that, nothing in this movie is worth anything. As much flack as she gets and has been getting for being the reason why this is a big flop, that can only be said by anybody that has not seen this movie. Because she is the only person that showed up on this film and did anything. The animations for the dwarfs which are these grotesque abominations that are these constructs of somebody's hubris thinking they could turn those cartoon animations into quote unquote real beings. I have never seen something that is straight from the minds of serial killers than those things they put on the screen. And to make it the absolute worst, Dopey weirdly looks like a combination of a pedophile and a child amalgamated into one singular being. In something that is straight from the mind, like an eldritch horror from an H.P. Lovecraft novel. Gal Gadot in this movie would have been better served. That character would have been better served if they had a plank of wood and they just kind of painted a face on it and put a little crown on it. And instead of delivering any of the lines of dialogue that she so horrendously just blankly said out of her mouth, if they just instead took that 2x4 and hit people in the forehead with it, it would have been more effective than anything she did in this movie. I am not one of those people that would subscribe to the conspiracy theories that aliens and or robots have come to Earth and started replacing people. But after seeing Gal Gadot in this movie, I must reassess my take on that. Because if anybody is an alien or a robot in human skin, it is Gal Gadot. In some fever dream of LSD and cocaine that somebody must have had when they filmed the scenes of her singing a song, where she just kind of blankly changed tonalities without ever hitting a note, but also was just one monotonous tone the entire time. And then you have the man that played Jonathan, who to me had the personality of a sock puppet. You know you are for a bad time when you're watching a musical movie that has some of the most iconic songs in all of cinema history in it. And whenever they introduce the opening number, which is a brand new song written for this movie, that is also most of the songs in this movie, because if you really think about it, there's not that many songs in the actual Snow White. When you get into the opening number, the piece that is supposed to set the tone for the entire movie, the grand introduction into your live-action cinematic Snow White experience, and you feel like you would be better served listening to a Kidz Bop album for an hour and a half instead of actually listening to the song they're performing, you know you are in for a bad time. There's another song that's the next song in the movie, which is like, I don't know, oh, what it's like being trapped in a castle, which is also a horrendous song. But this is also the first song you get to truly hear Rachel Zegler sing. And I will say that at least with her singing, I could focus on just what her voice was doing, not any of the words that were being said. Those were pointless. But I could listen to just the musical notes her voice was making and go, well, that's nice. Because nothing else fucking mattered. And then you get to the dwarves, and they are just there, and they're singing their stupid little dwarf songs, which are the iconic songs. But it is such an assault on your brain to hear these iconic songs whilst also seeing something that is straight from the ninth circle of hell. something so horrendous that Lucifer himself would not actually dream of putting on to humanity because he at least has some sort of dignity or reverence. But no. The godless entity that is the Walt Disney Corporation cares so little for your soul that they have damned us all to being subjects that are ever feasted upon by a being such as Cthulhu, by just bearing witness to these morose, grotesque images they forced us to watch. Now, the one thing I'll say that is a positive for humanity in this dire of moments is the fact that like 8 people have seen this fucking movie, so only 8 of us are going to live this horrendous fate. And I guess, that's good. That not all of humanity is destined to suffer like we are for having witnessed these things. And to top it all off, Dopey speaks so fucking much in this movie. Which, frankly, while not offensive, is just dumb. But as far as the sins that have been committed and even originated from the making of this movie, it might be a minor one. But as people are prone to say, a sin is a sin. And that's all this movie truly is. And not in a good way. You know me, Cinefans. And my co-hosts here. No one loves a sin more than me. And this movie is such a sinful disdain for the mere existence of life that it is even too much for me. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. Jastin, what do you got?
Wow, really spoke from the heart there, I see.
But am I wrong?
Probably not. I mean, probably not. I mean, you might be 100% right. What's interesting is like going into this movie, I tried to do as much homework as I could. I wanted to understand to some extent what all the Rachel Zegler controversy was about. But honestly, trying to make sense of it all, everything I heard seemed too biased. It was too biased. I couldn't find what I thought was a fair opinion of it all.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, because it's not like you're finding a chronological order of like just things she said. It's all opinion pieces about the horrible things she said.
Exactly. That's all I kept finding. I tried so many sources, and everything I kept getting just felt too one-sided, and they weren't talking about exactly what she said. They were just talking about, oh, it was horrible, and her and Gal Gadot don't like each other because Gal Gadot's Israeli, and she said this comment. I couldn't make sense of anything that was being said. It all felt way too biased to me. So I just walked away from that experience still not fully understanding all of it. But I was like, okay, she said some things. People don't like them. Okay, whatever. She made some comments about the 1937. Okay, I just kind of walked away from that going, okay, whatever. But I mean, the only thing I learned from it was, okay, it's fine that a person wants to speak their mind, but when you're on a public forum and it's media and stuff like that, there are consequences to everything that you say. So I think it's cool that she is opinionated, stands up for herself, whatever she said, the things that she said, whether you agree or disagree with them. I would never tell anybody to shut up or that they can't have a voice or anything like that. But there are consequences to the things that you say. And sometimes maybe a Disney forum or a media forums where you're supposed to be promoting a Snow White movie might not be the best time to say such things.
Also, the most controversial thing she said, which was, essentially maybe stop genociding Palestine. She actually just did in a tweet. It wasn't even something she verbalized at a presser or anything like that. Like, you know what I mean? It was just a tweet.
Okay. And I was more or less talking about kind of the way she sort of dismisses the 1937 Snow White film.
I actually do know more about that. One of the things she said was when she was a child, she was scared of the original Snow White movie, more specifically the forest scene when Snow White first goes in the forest. And she was like, yeah, I was really scared and I never really liked or watched Snow White because of that. And then when I got older, I watched it and I understood why people liked that movie. Like, I was able to actually appreciate it because I was able to get past the parts that scared me as a child. The problem is most people omit the shit she says after, like, pause. You know what I mean? Because it wasn't really disparaging against that. I know she has said things about, like, oh, well, this isn't a Snow White needs to come save the prince needs to come save a helpless Snow White movie. Yes, but that's also, she's not the writer of the movie. She's not actually disparaging the original Snow White. That was already the version of Snow White they pitched to her. You know what I mean? So it's not like that's even really trashing the first movie. That's the whole reason why Disney's remaking this shit, is to, like, change some of these weird things that people don't like in the old movies. One of the things I know she talked about was something we talked about ages ago, the age difference between the prince and Snow White and how that's creepy. She's like, yeah, we're not going to have that in this movie. Once again, she's just commenting on the movie that was already written for her, like, or already written and that she's agreed to star in. And so I don't even know what she's really said that disparaged Snow White completely, outside of the things that other people disparage it for anyway, as it is.
I see. And the thing that I kept finding, and this is why some of this stuff I was like, because I never could find any direct, like, video of her actually saying the thing. And that's really what I was looking for, but I just found other people commenting about it. But one thing I kept running into were these comments about it being weird and just kind of outdated, and that this is not going to be a story like that. This is going to be something different. It just, the way it seemed to come off was kind of like, well, like, basically I wasn't hearing a lot of respect for anything about the original, or an even talk about the good and the bad of the original. It was kind of, everything I read felt dismissive.
Yeah, it does feel like, I mean, and you're talking about specifically what Rachel Zegler said or just the
Yes.
general consensus of the movie. Yeah, I feel like people were taking it as it's like, cool, if you hate this character so much, then why are you even playing it? Like you just seem like you feel entitled and like you're going around trashing a character that you don't even like. That's kind of the vibe of what people were taking from her comments that she made when she, looking back too, because when I first saw that, it was out of context and I was like, oh, that's not great. It's not great publicity. But yeah, it was basically kind of like what Sterling was saying, where she was just trying to be like, yeah, it's kind of weird, and like the way that they do things, and the fact that like they need a prince to save the day and everything like that. Like we want to do something completely different because, you know, it's 2024 or whatever, and like we just don't want to do the same story. And people were taking it as she was entitled and ungrateful to play, like you said, ungrateful, like to play a character that is so iconic. And people were just like taking everything that she said about it out of context because of the hate that they perceived her having for the original.
And also, to be fair, I have little reverence for the original one. So when other people say things like that, it won't click with me that they're having an opinion that is controversial, because I have the same thing. So to be fair to you guys and maybe to other people, whatever, yeah, saying things like it's weird might click with you guys as being negative towards the original. Whereas to me, I'm like, yeah, that's fair. It just tracks with what I think already. So maybe I'm more forgiving of that because she didn't say anything I thought was not true.
Yeah, I mean, and granted, I don't have any sort of reverence for the original either. I think it was just like the way they framed her conversations was she just felt like, what's the word? Just her attitude of how she said it. I think people were taking out of context.
Yeah. And that's why I really wanted to try to find the actual clip of the interview and her saying it, but it was just very difficult for me to find that. You know, I'll just have to I'm sure it's somewhere, but I just had trouble finding it. All I kept finding were these reactions and sort of these, well, she said this and this is why this is bad or whatever. But regardless of that, you would at least kind of hope that, okay, we get it. Yes, that was in 1937. And yes, this is a new movie. And yes, there should be an attempt to modernize the story more. But I mean, and I get that this is a young person who probably doesn't even grasp all of the historical significance of Snow White, because that was like one of their first, like, if not the first, like animated Disney musical film that they did, right? Like, wasn't that the first one?
I believe that's correct.
Yeah, I want to say it was that one. And like,
yeah, outside of like the Steamboat Willie and some of the Mickey Mouse stuff, I think,
yeah,
legit speaking, I think, yes, you are absolutely right. Snow White is the original Disney animated movie.
Yeah. And I guess it hits me a little different because, and not even just because of just the whole generational thing or I'm older or anything like that, but maybe it hits me a little bit more because I understand like how historically important it is. And when I see comments coming from someone who feels where it feels like they don't grasp that, I don't know. I feel like that's not even just a failure of that young person, but maybe it's also just the failure of the leadership as well. I think and maybe sometimes this is why like you probably need a PR person sometimes if you're doing media too. That might help here too. But like that's the first Disney animated musical. It's the blueprint for a lot of the animated musicals that we got after that. And there are still, even in Disney animation today, there are still things and elements and concepts that still come from Snow White. Like that's how influential Snow White is. Yes, I get the whole Prince thing and Save the Day and the kiss and all of that kind of stuff. So I get all of that stuff. But I don't think that means that we have to neglect, forget about, completely dismiss, or like lose sight of the historical importance of that film, like, and what it means to just Disney and animated films in general. I think that that's also very important. So if anybody's doing a follow-up of this, yeah, it would just be nice if they knew more about or said more about that part of it too, So either way, I guess all of that to say that I guess I can see both sides of it. I understand the need to change something and modernize something from 1937. I mean, it is from 1937, but I'm also a supporter of that other side though. I'm not one of these people that's ready to say that all the old shit can just die. Like, I think you still have to appreciate some of the old stuff and what it means and what it brought. And you got to understand your history, right? I'm one of the believers of you got to understand your history to better impact and influence your present and your future. So I just wish more people felt like that,
I just kind of think it's funny because as much as we disagree on some stuff and we agree on stuff and all of these things, the one thing that you and me are consistently polar opposites on is whether or not to burn everything to the ground or not with that stuff. That is just like the one thing that is just truly opposites. You're like, we got to remember the historical significance. And I'm like, yeah, we could burn every copy of the original Snow White. That's fine. Like if no human being ever watched the 1937 Snow White ever again, I'd be okay with that.
Man, and I'm totally the opposite. Because even going back and watching it, because I watched it before this, how I am when these remakes come out. Anytime a remake or reboot comes out, I want to have the original fresh on my mind. I even went back and listened to an audiobook of the Grimm's Snow White. So I did quite a bit of homework here.
When did you watch the 1937 Snow White?
Tuesday.
Okay.
And then I saw the movie Wednesday. Wait, today's Wednesday. My bad. Monday. My bad.
Okay.
And I saw the movie
I'm not gonna
Tuesday.
lie. A little bit on Monday night. I'm not going to lie. Through my head, I was wondering, wonder if Jastin's watching the original Snow White right now.
I probably was at that exact moment you were thinking about it.
We were kind of doing that like Fievel moment of both looking up at the moon going, wonder if Jastin's watching Snow White right now. And Jastin wasn't looking at the moon because he was watching Snow White.
And I'm the opposite of you. Don't burn the 1937 just yet. Like, even as I was watching it, though, there was just something about it that brought a smile to my face. And yeah, maybe it was nostalgia. Maybe it was because I saw that when I was a kid. But I don't know, man. There's a very timeless quality to that style of animation.
Really? Because to me, it looks old as shit.
See, not to me. I appreciate it. Honestly, I was watching it and I was like, I miss this, man. It's I miss this, man. There's just something about, there really is something about when you're watching that and you're thinking about how painstaking it was to bring that to life. How every single thing that you're watching was a hand drawn, like all of the animations, the movements, if you will, that you're seeing were hand drawn. I'm talking every arm movement, the walking, the everything that you saw, that was drawn by hand and then was put on this machine where this thing is flipping paper to give it the illusion of movement. And you think about the work that was put into that and you're watching it and how everything just has this sort of picturesque quality to it. The animation still just, it has a distinct look to it. There's personality in it that just doesn't exist now with what people do with keyboards and ones and zeros and numbers. There's just something about that. There's an intimate thing about it. There's a tangible thing about it that is different from the shit that we have now. So
I think my biggest problem with it drives me nuts these days when I watch any old animated movie. It's the painted backgrounds.
See, I love that. I thought that was cool.
I hate it so much because to me, it weirdly feels like all animated movies are done on a green screen. That's what I feel like when I watch them now. Like having seen things where it's not painted backgrounds, like fully just completely animated movies, the movies that have painted backgrounds drive me nuts.
Interesting. Because I just looked at it the opposite way. I appreciated the detail of it. I appreciated just there was a quality to it that was like, man, and all I could think was, it just hits different, man, than the ones and the zeros and the CGI shit that we have today. And this movie, the 2025, I guess I'm going to have to say 37 and 25 throughout this, but this movie in a lot of ways kind of proves that point, that just because shit's easier to do now and just because it's louder now and just because we're sitting in this theater with all this technology now doesn't always mean your shit is better. Just because you got a better tools and better shit and all of that kind of stuff. Back then, there's a difference between, oh, this is just one of many other remakes and reboots and shit that we're coming out with. So let's just pump it out there and make some money. It's a difference when you're in there and it's drawn by hand and it's got to work because we've never done this fucking before and we don't know if it's gonna work or not. So, I mean, with everything you're drawing, there's a risk of, is it going to work? Or is it going to be well received? Is it going to be, we don't know because we've never done this before. It's just different, man. It's just different. And I respect those differences. I appreciated some things about the original Snow White. And this seemed so bent on being something different and trying to be better, but at the same time, not knowing how to appreciate and pay homage to the original. It was trying to do so many things. It just did nothing. And where there was some real magic in that original 1937 Snow White, there was just none of it in this 2025. And I think that that's the biggest lesson that I came out of this learning. Like, I think that out of all of these remake, reboot things that they've done, this might be one of the worst ones. Like it was just directionless. It was so directionless in how we had all these characters and no way to develop them all. Things are just happening and we're not developing motives or anything like that. We're
And on top of
answering some questions about the 1937's plot holes, but then it creates more questions that we then decide not to answer.
And on
Some
top
of
of that,
these-
too, I don't feel like
go
it
ahead.
delivered on the promise of, this ain't your mama's Snow White. She's not going to get rescued by the prince. I feel like this didn't deliver on that one conceit that they were like, oh, yeah, we're definitely changing it.
Yeah.
And it was the same.
Yeah, maybe you do have something wired to my head because you're just saying exactly what I was thinking. I was about to say this movie is hypocritical. For all the talk about it gonna be better and we're pushing this forward and she's gonna be stronger and better than the original Snow White. For all of that talk, we spend half the movie waiting for a father to show up that never does. And then we get saved by another man several times. But we're supposed to have this strong, I could do it on my own kind of, forward thinking character. But still a lot of the same kind of things happen. And then when you get to the end of this movie, after just this mess of things happening, you get to the end of this movie and the ending is weird. And I just had nothing but questions and I didn't understand shit. Like,
Yes.
it just
Whoa.
does the things and all of these rules come into play that were never established before. And the thing that happens is supposed to be like this emotional, like great moment. And all I could sit there and think is, well, if this was the solution, why the fuck didn't this happen earlier when in the film? If this was all we had to do, why didn't this just happen at any given point ever? With millions of opportunities for this same shit to happen that I'm seeing right now.
Jastin,
Like-
are you saying though that you did not appreciate the weirdly all white clothed dance number at the end of this movie?
Yeah, what was that? I
had
wasn't
so many
even
issues with
talking
that.
about that. But yeah, more strange decisions. I do agree with you. Like, Ziegler is the best thing about it. Her performance is not bad as Snow White, and it's elevated because of her ability to sing. She knocks it out of the park with the vocals and the singing and everything like that. But this story is just so jumbled and messy and doesn't make any sense that for every great note that she hit, there was just a colossal failure on the writing and the character development of this story and this narrative.
Well, and it's why I was saying, like, none of the words she's saying mattered. She just has
Yeah.
a very pretty voice, a very good voice. I liked hearing the notes. Not a single word mattered.
Yeah. And I don't know, for all the imagery that scared her as a kid from the original Snow White, I'm surprised when she read this script, she wasn't scared. Like, because if I would have read this shit, I would have been like, what the fuck is this shit? I would have ran away as fast as I could. Well, maybe until I saw the paycheck. Then I might have still done it.
She got that Disney paycheck, Justin.
Yeah.
There's a reason why.
Maybe I'd have been okay after that Disney money, but
There's a reason why this movie cost $280 to $350 million to make. And it has nothing to do with the movie itself.
Yeah, she got paid.
Now, Justin, I do have a question for you, since you did watch the original recently. About how long into the movie is it before she goes to the forest / the dwarves happen in the animated one?
What? 10, 15 minutes of that?
It's 35 in this one.
Yeah.
It is 35 minutes in this movie to just get to the movie. Just to get to the fucking movie.
Yeah. It was a lot of fluff. And I really don't know why. Because none of it comes into play later. We set it all up and we don't do shit with it. It would be the equivalent of, like, in volleyball, they put it up for spikes and nobody ever jumps up and spikes it on the other side. Everybody just stands there and watches. The ball gets set up and everybody just watches and it just hits the ground every time. And that's how the team loses. You know, like, it was just a bunch of setups, but there were no spikes. Gal Gadot, there may be one historical significance to this, because this might be one of the biggest miscasts of a character that I think I've ever seen.
Did it not remind you of an early 2000s Tara Reid performance?
Man, Tara Reid. But the key word there is miscast. Like, I know that Gal Gadot has some skill at acting. She does. We've seen her act better than this.
All right. But how many times? Really?
Two times.
That it was better?
The original Wonder Woman and the Fast and the Furious movies.
I don't even know if I could say it's better acting than the Fast and Furious movies. I think it's just it's a better written character.
That might be what it is. It's just a better, like, it's a more enjoyable character. That's probably what it is.
But
Could
I mean,
be.
is this performance really any different than Wonder Woman 1984? Really?
I feel it's a lot different because, and the reason why I said she's miscast is because I just don't think this role doesn't feel in her range at all. Like,
you're right, it has emotions.
And most of those emotions are, this is supposed to be, this woman, this queen is evil as fuck. There's not supposed to be this hint of comedy or anything like that, like some of the more nuanced Disney villains. That queen, especially when, coming off fresh from the original, she was dark and twisted and scary and envious and obsessed. And it really was just the darkest side of that. And there are times where the queen just looks downright scary. Well,
she wanted to murder a child.
Exactly. So that's some really dark kind of serious shit. And they didn't have the witch in that singing any songs. She wasn't a part of the singing or anything like that because in 37, somehow in 1937, they understood that we need to have a contrast between the seven dwarves and Snow White and her purity and her good nature and all of her kindness. And we need to have that contrasted with this just completely demented, dark, envious person obsessed with beauty. So she's going to be scary as fuck and evil. And we're going to dig into that.
Yeah, and look, say what you want about that Snow White and the Huntsman movie, but Charlize Theron nailed that. As far as being that evil queen, I think she nailed that role. I actually don't hate that movie as much as a lot of people do, but it's her in that is really well cast. If you want to talk about casting a beautiful woman that has acting range to make you feel like she's evil, she nails that.
Yeah, definitely it was better than this. So, like, if you watch that and go, okay, we have this pure evil queen woman, Gal Gadot would be the last person on in my thought process that goes, oh, she can play we need somebody who can play a pure evil woman. Like, she's beautiful. She needs to look good, because that was it. The queen at one moment, at one time, was the fairest of them all. So I get that you need a beautiful woman, but you can't stop there and just say we need a beautiful actress. You kind of need an actress that can be that real menacing, evil, conniving, just downright. Yes, she needs to be attractive, but she kind of needs to be a dog on that evil side. And Gal Gadot would have been the last person on my list for that. How do you look at something like Wonder Woman and go, yes, evil queen? I just don't understand the choice. I really don't.
Well, if it reminds me of what Sterling said when we watched, what is that, Red Notice? And like, you were like, I don't buy her as like this evil mastermind genius. Like, it's like she's supposed to be the bad guy, but then she's just like, wink, just kidding. Like, that's just kind of the vibe that she gives us when she's playing a villain.
Yeah, and some people, it's just not in their wheelhouse. I talk with other wrestlers all the time about how, yes, essentially we can play good and bad guys. We can do babyface and heel, but for the most part, and every wrestler can say, there are very few that do both very well. Like, sometimes you just have a charisma that gravitates toward a certain type of character, good or bad, a badass, or whatever you're trying to play, whatever you're trying to emote. And I think that actors and actresses are the same way. There are very few that are just as believable no matter what they are doing. And then you have some where their wheelhouse is one lane, and if you try to put them in the other lane, it exploits them. It kind of shows how limited they are. And I think that this was just one of those times where not only could she not really keep up on the singing side, because if you have somebody as talented as Ziegler, you probably need, and you're going to have the antithesis of her, you probably need somebody on the other side just as talented as a singer, but can also be this evil woman. And Gal Gadot, I think this was just an undertaking. I don't think she was capable of this.
Jastin, I think you unknowingly actually stumbled into what it was. She was the antithesis of Rachel Zegler. Rachel Zegler could sing, and they're like, all right, we need the exact opposite.
We need the exact opposite. Someone who really can't do that. So, yeah, man. But anyway, I'll try to make it quick. I feel like I'm going long, so I'll make it quick. But anyway, yeah, I didn't like that. She was totally miscast. So everything just felt like a misfire. So, yeah, not enjoyable, not very good. And it has nothing to do with, oh, I'm just comparing it to the original. This was a mess. I watched the original and I was like, oh, I was even thinking in my head, oh, there are some things I really think I really want to see. And I hope that, and there's some themes in here that would work in a modernized version of Snow White that I think that they could have focused on. But this went off the rails, and I don't know what they were doing here. It was very confusing and very hard to watch.
I mean, Jastin, and how you know what you're saying is accurate on that is I'm not comparing it to the first one. I give zero fucks about the first one.
Yeah.
And this was horrendous.
Yeah. It was a mess, bro.
Like, just as a standalone movie, if this was my first experience of Snow White anything, I would hate it. Heather, what about you?
First off, does anyone else think Idina Menzel would have been a great evil queen? I think she would have nailed that.
Yeah, but I don't want to wheelhouse her like that. I mean, she was already Elphaba. She was Elsa. She's already got her own Disney shit.
That's fair. I'm just thinking of somebody who's beautiful, who can really sing, but has acting range. You know what I mean? But she's also kind of on that level too of like acting type, like very Broadway, very theater acting, but yeah, I get it. I'm just trying to think of, there's so many people that probably would have been a better choice than Gal Gadot, but off the top of my head, trying to think of somebody.
Off the top of my head, Scarlett Johansson.
Oh, yeah, very true. Yeah, she would have been great. She would have been great. I feel like she might be a little too young, but maybe that's the point because she's just a beautiful queen. So she just looks good regardless.
But Scarlett Johansson's not younger than Gal Gadot.
She is. I think Gal Gadot is in her 40s. But either way, I'm just saying I guess that's fair because it's a stepdaughter. Because I was like trying to think of like Rachel Zegler's character is like in her 20s in this movie, as far as I understand. So just trying to think of somebody who would be old enough to kind of, but if that's not a factor, Scarlett Johansson, 100%, she could literally do anything. She's an amazing actress and singer and beautiful. So that's a good choice.
Scarlett Johansson is 6 months older than Gal Gadot.
Really? How old is she?
She is 40 right now.
Oh, okay.
Gal Gadot turns 40 later this month.
Okay. For some reason, I thought she was already in her 40s. All right.
Wow.
But yeah, either way, no, that's fair. That is fair. And that was I kind of thought that anyway about Gal Gadot. I was like, yeah, she's beautiful, but she just seems really young to be the evil queen to the evil stepmom. But I guess it's a stepmom. So it's not really a big factor. It was just I feel like they're not that far off in age, but it doesn't really matter in the scheme of the movie. I think really ultimately what it comes down to is the movie doesn't really have any heart behind it. There's nothing that pulls you towards anything with this movie. The songs, I agree. Sterling, the songs, they're not memorable. One of them actually, I don't think makes sense in the movie at all. Very much kind of like a Moana 2 and Wish thing as far as the songs go. With the whole, you want them for the purpose of making it into a musical, but you don't really remember them in the long run. So yeah, it just kind of made the songs, unfortunately, and the movie kind of boring in some areas because of that. I think the songs were more meaningful or more emotional or even more catchy. It would have felt like a less long movie than it was. And it wasn't even a long movie. As far as the acting goes, I somewhat agree with you guys about Rachel Zegler. In general, the acting was just rough in this movie. It was really rough acting throughout the movie from pretty much everybody. Rachel Zegler, yes, while I do agree she is probably the best thing about this movie, she has a lovely voice. And to me, her performance, though, is still a bit uneven. The scenes when she's acting and singing are really good. She knows the right emotion and stuff like that to show when she's singing the songs. And even her line delivery, for the most part in this movie, was pretty good. But other times with the in-between scenes, she made some acting choices that were a bit questionable to me. The things she's trying to emote, I don't think really come across very well. Gal Gadot is a beautiful woman, and that is it. That's what I have, because you guys kind of already said what is to be said about her performance in this movie.
And that really sucks because it is almost completely reductive about everything. And you're just like,
yep.
But fuck it. That really is the only thing she added to this movie, right? Honestly speaking. And I hate saying that because it's reductive. It feels sexist. It feels misogynistic. It feels gross to say, but that's what she brought, right?
Yeah, and I don't even mean that as like that's not me trying to be like extra shady about her performance. That's just me saying like I feel like genuinely they casted the movie because they're like, who's the most beautiful actress in the world right now? And that's what they came up with. And it's fair because she's absolutely beautiful. But I feel like they didn't care about anything past that. And that is reductive. And that doesn't make sense for anything else that is supposed to be what this movie is about and the women empowerment thing. So it sucks, but also like she played the beautiful queen part well because she's a beautiful woman. But her performance was even more uneven than Rachel Zegler's performance was.
You know who would have been a good evil queen?
Who?
Amanda Seyfried.
Yeah. She has a good voice. She's beautiful. She has acting range. I could get on board with that. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so it's I don't know. Like, and I'm not like it sucks because yeah, like saying that she's beautiful is the only unfortunately good thing that I can say about her performance in this. And I just it's partially, I guess, her fault because she doesn't quite, like you said, Jastin, have that range that you need for this type of role. But also it's the people who cast her because I genuinely don't know that they cared much past we need somebody that is a good looking person for this role. So it kind of goes hand in hand there. But that's just my thoughts. I could be completely wrong, but I don't know, maybe Gal Gadot sought this role out. I have no idea. But that's just the vibe I get just from what we got from her performance. Because you're right, Jastin, we have seen her do better stuff. We have seen her be good. Like, I think she was great in Wonder Woman. I truly think her performance was great. But yeah, like beyond that, it's hard to see anything else that you could say like her portfolio of acting range is extravagant, you know? Anyway, so that's what I have about that. The only character I feel like I'm a little bit on the opposite side of this from you, at least, Sterling. The only person or the only character that I felt was like a real person in this, in my opinion, actually was Jonathan. I liked Jonathan in this. He just felt like he acted and said things more naturally. Just the way he delivered his lines, just the things he was saying. I just felt like he felt more like, oh, this is an actual person you could meet out in the world. He felt like that to me. So I actually did enjoy his performance probably more than you did. And you know, he's a good singer too. He did well. Their harmonies were very good together. It kind of a little bit of what I alluded to before. This movie kind of reads like it just should have been a stage play, like Snow White, the musical play, because it's how they do their acting in general, you know, and like just also, I think you talked a little bit about it, Jastin. The reactions that we get to a lot of the things don't feel warranted because it's just like there's not any sort of tension that allows you to feel, you know, or like, I don't know. It just, you don't, the dialogue happening right before something else happens, there's no in between to really let it sink in. You know what I mean? I feel like we sort of talked about that a little bit with that Ma Rainey's Black Bottom movie because it was a play, you know, and it was made into this movie. But this is just kind of what that feels like because they are saying a lot of things, but there's no moment of like, let that sink in what was just said or what just happened, because it's very quick to move on to this line of dialogue was said. So now we got to move on to this line of dialogue. And then we have to move on to this scene and this song. And that's really, I think, why it feels like it doesn't have any heart. I feel like that's why it feels so much that way. I also feel like Rachel Zegler's acting type is more suited for like a Broadway or theater type of thing. Just based on what you see here, that's just what it feels like. Like those in-between moments where she's a little more uneven, they don't really matter as much if you're doing like a stage play or a Broadway thing, because it's all about the singing. It's all about the acting with your singing. And she's good at that part. So that's why I think it feels a little bit more uneven with those other scenes that we get from her. So yeah, they do make some changes to the story, the overall story. Some of them I think were kind of good changes. Some of them were very lacking. I'll go into that in the next section, but like either way, it was sort of a mixed bag of things that they changed in this movie. That's by no means to say that the changes made it by itself a significantly better movie, because it's just unfortunately not a good movie overall. But at least on a positive note, what I will say is I think it's a visually very beautiful movie for the most part. I think the visuals are very good in this, minus the way that the Seven Dwarves look, but like the colors and like the way the cinematography is done in some scenes, I think that's done really well. And like, so that, I think the animals were cute that they showed. And Rachel's voice were the three, I think, most positive things that I could say about this movie. That's kind of it for me, though.
Recommendations and scores.
Let's do it.
Yep.
Recommendations and score.
Heather, what you got?
No. Like, if you want, yeah, surprisingly, you know what? If you like, just listen to the clips of Rachel singing, you know, just listen to that part of it. If there's any part of this you need to see, it's going to be the parts of her singing. That's the only thing I would really recommend you do. It's just not, it's not good. Like they kind of, what Jastin said, it's very jumbled. The way that some of the characters look. Also, is it just me? Okay, does Dopey look a little bit like a less offensive version of the Mad TV guy? That's what he reminded me of.
He
like,
is a pedophile and a child mixed together.
That's the vibes of that Mad TV magazine guy. I don't know.
Man, he was just a little dopey, man. He was a little dope. You didn't think he was dope?
No.
Next question. But
no dope.
Anyway, so you know, it doesn't come together. It's not. It really, everything kind of falls apart with it because we don't really get good performances. We don't get a good overall story. There's just nothing about this that is stand out in any sort of way. And even the songs themselves, while Rachel sings really well, the songs are not very memorable or very like epic, legendary songs. The only songs in this that you're like, okay, this would be recognizable or memorable are the ones that are already songs before this movie. So yeah, I don't think it's a good movie. So no, I don't recommend it, unfortunately. But I mean, for at least a few things that were decent, I'm going to give this 20 whitewashed dance numbers out of 100.
I'm sorry, what number did you say?
20.
Oh, God, it's so high. That's why I misheard it. Jastin, what about you?
Yeah, it's a no white for me. It's just disappointing, man. Like, but I mean, we've seen other remakes and reboots, and at least on some of them, you got the sense that they tried. I mean, you got the sense that they at least had a focus or an aim or something that they were trying to do or accomplish. I don't know what. This movie was trying to do everything and just did nothing. I think that's the best way to describe it. It wanted 7 other characters, but also the 7 dwarves. It wanted her to be strong and stand up for herself, but also to be kind and gentle. It wanted her to not depend on the men, but depend on them. It wanted Gal Gadot to try to act,
stuff,
but not do it well. I don't know, man. This movie just, the things it wanted, it also didn't want them. So it just winds up, it's like a person just punching themselves. I mean, I don't know. And thinking that somehow they're going to win the fight. But they're not punching the competitor. They're just punching themselves. I just don't know what happened, guys. I don't know what happened.
You can't put that kind of imagery in my head this late at night, man.
And you're just sitting in the audience watching this going, punch the other guy. You can't win like this. You can't win. You're going to lose. And then the fight goes for 12 rounds. And after an hour, guess what? He loses.
The opponent's just kind of standing there just watching him.
And he just loses. In the interview, he goes, "What happened out there?" And then he gets on the mic and goes, "Well, fuck all you fans. I really tried."
He's just like, you know what? I felt like I got some good shots in. They got some good shots.
You give 110%.
I mean, guys, what happened? I mean, Disney, I know that not every sequel's going to be good. I know that not every remake's going to be good. That's just kind of the business when you're just milking and sucking all of your original IPs for all that they're worth. So obviously this is going to happen, but I expect better from you than this. I have more respect for you than this. And this is what you gave me. I'm mad. I'm angry that I spent money on this. And when people are like, "Oh, it's a flop, it's going to fail." Well, no shit. I mean, nobody wants to pay to see a boxer punch himself. Nobody.
Yeah, it's
nobody. So
I'm not gonna lie, Jastin, I kind of want to pay to watch that now. Just have Jason Bateman from Dodgeball do the commentary and be like, "This is an interesting strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out."
Oh, man. If you could do it all over again, would you do anything different? He's like, "No, I have no regrets. I implemented the strategy that me and my trainer wanted to implement. And
I went out there and
we left it all out there in the ring.
I fought the fight I wanted to fight." Just get all those stupid after boxing match cliches.
Yeah, all those cliches.
I went out there and I fought the fight I wanted to fight, and just at the end of the night, he just happened to be a better fighter than me. The refs, I guess, saw something that I didn't see. I thought I won the fight, but apparently the refs saw it different.
Yeah, with that being said, we're gonna go 7 too many motherfuckers in this movie to matter at all out of 100.
See, Heather, that's why I thought I didn't think I heard the number I heard.
I feel like I'm too high now. So.
Oh, you think? You're going to really think that in just a second.
Can I readjust my score?
We'll get to it. Let me give mine first. No. Don't watch this movie. If anybody says that, like, "Hey, we should go watch this movie," reevaluate your relationship with them. They don't have your best interest at heart. They would be the trainer of that boxer that kept punching himself. Because they don't give a fuck about you. This movie is not flopping because of anything Rachel Zegler said. This movie is flopping because no one wanted this movie. No one. I don't care how much of a fan of the original Snow White you are, you did not want this movie. It is flopping because that's the amount of interest the world had in this idea. Has nothing to do with anything that's said, any controversy, whatever. Ultimately, that does not matter with this movie. The problem with this movie, in the end, is the reason why it's so bad. Because even the people making it, and I'm not even talking about Rachel Zegler, I'm talking about every single person that worked on this movie, cared about as much as anyone else when it comes to remaking this movie. No one wanted this to happen. But they got that Disney paycheck. Can't blame them. Hey, you get that Disney paycheck? Woo. Hard to turn that down. I would call this movie a train wreck, but I feel like that diminishes the severity of train wrecks. It's just bad in the truest sense of the word. To quote a Val Kilmer quote from Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and it would be like if I went to this movie and was like, hey, you know what I'd find if I went to the word bad in the dictionary, and the movie would go, a picture of me? And then I would respond with, no, the definition of the word bad, which you clearly fucking are. It's flat. Let's not exaggerate. Just a flat 0. Out of who gives a fuck? It's a 0 out of 1. It's a 0 out of 100. It's a 0 out of 1 billion. It does not matter what the other number is because it's still a 0, no matter how the fuck you want to calculate it. Do you want to adjust
enough to give it 1 point?
No.
Just 1 point.
No.
Just 1 point.
No. Because of every single time I liked Rachel Zegler's voice in this movie, there was 97 other things happening that I did not like. Like, you know, like pretty voice, stupid lyric. So balances out to a 0. It's a 1 and a -1, a 0. Like it's a zero-sum game. Like every good thing, there's just nothing in the end. No, there was talks whether you wanted to change your score. You want to change your score? You don't have to. I don't want to pressure you. If you feel it's a 20, it's a 20 to you. Be true to yourself.
No, I mean, and it's not even like I'm changing it because you guys are giving me a hard time. I'm like, the more we're talking about it, I'm like, I did give it too high. Because like, even the things that I'm like, this was a decent thing in the movie, it's just so few and far between. And it's still not even a great thing in the movie. It's still just a decent thing in the movie. But I was just going to change it to like 12. So I'm going to give it 12.
I almost gave it 12, but I was like, it'd be cute to give it 7.
You got to go with what's cute in this. You know what I mean?
Sometimes you got to go with what's cute, Heather. You know that.
CineScore is a 6. So,
damn it! I should have gave it an 8.
You'd have had to have given it a 9 to get a 7.
Man.
Yeah, you're right. Yes,
Well,
you're right. And
no,
I'm not willing to do that.
An 8 would have given it a 6.66 repeating, so we would have rounded up to a 7.
Yeah, you talking about a 9? That feels wrong. So
It
yeah,
feels wrong.
It just wasn't going to happen for it, I guess.
Yeah. Spoilers?
Yeah.
Spoilers.
I mean, to be fair, there's not much to spoil about this movie. It is still technically, by the loosest of definitions, the story of Snow White. It was like, one of the things I thought was funny is that they were like, yeah, we can't have a man save the day all the time. And then they had the man arrested while she's getting poisoned apple. I was like, okay, movie, how you going to get out of this? Apparently, it's just to have the guy break out of prison 10 minutes after he gets in just to go do the same damn thing. I was like, oh, so you had this guy get arrested to just get arrested in 10 minutes? That should, like, that scene was what, to just not have that character in the scene when she gets poisoned? But also, I have a qualm with all the animals in that scene. So the animals went to tell the dwarves, told everybody else. They're telling everybody else, oh no, the evil. Why did none of those motherfuckers stay there and just tell Snow White? They all left her there by herself. They were there. Why didn't none of them just go, bitch, it's her?
That's true.
They walked by her to go tell other people. So even the animals were going, Snow White ain't got this shit. We better go get some other people to save her. Even the animals were saying that she's the character that they were saying this wasn't going to be. And to me, they also didn't have the audacity. What's one of the big jokes? Oh, this man just comes and kisses this woman, no consent, no nothing, just walking up to dead women and kissing them. And that's just weird and gross. And they still did it. I thought at least, bare minimum, how do you have that scene but it not be as completely dog shit weird? Have him just kiss her hand. That's a fairly somewhat reasonable thing to do to like somebody like that. You know what I mean? Like that's passed away. Like, oh, kiss their hand. You know, something like that. That's a fairly less gross version of it. Which would have qualified. It didn't say in that potion book, which is so weird, that it's like, hey, make this potion. Also, cure for potion right under it. Just right in the middle of the page. But like, does that not count as True Love's Kiss?
That's true. I feel like their justification for it is the line in the song that they did where the two of them are singing, where they say something about like if you should ever find me, something like wake me with a kiss. What does it say? Hold on. I like actually wrote it down because it was a point I was going to make about the movie.
Oh, you actually paid attention to I gave no fucks about any of that. I was so disinterested.
Yeah, it was, it said, oh, but if there's a world where you wake me, promise to wake me with a kiss. And I feel like that was sort of their justification for why they allowed it to happen in this movie.
It's a weird idea to bury plot points in boring, uninteresting songs.
Fair. That is fair. I feel like, because it's similar to what Little Mermaid did, but they did it better. But yeah, I feel like that was why they still felt they could do it, because they added the song and they added that line in the song saying, tell me you'll do this. Like basically saying, I'm letting you know, I want you to wake me up with a kiss, you know, kind of thing. But yes, I agree. Don't bury it in the song that like, I don't know. So yeah, but I feel like that was their justification for it.
To be fair, I guess they did address it, just in the worst way you could ever imagine. Because
true.
I guess they really thought people were going to really latch on to these songs they added. Do you remember? Is there a single moment outside of, I guess, Heather remembering that one fucking line? Is there anything memorable about any of those songs?
No, and to be fair, that is literally the only line that I remember from that song.
I guess I kind of remember Princess Problems just because of the alliteration of it.
Yeah.
That's it. No, I'm not saying I remembered any specific lines or any specific lyrics from the song, but the Princess Problems, that phrase is
fair. I mean, I remember memorable. In that first
somewhat
Rachel Zegler song when she does that thing where I think she says the word echoes, but she actually does an echo with her voice. I remember that moment, but it's still not the song as much as I remember going, oh, she's a really good singer. That's the only thing I did with that. I was like, oh, she's really good. But like, what was that first song? Like, if you make an apple pie, people are happy, or whatever the fuck that song was called. Like, what was that? How is that your opening number? It was just so flat and void of anything. It was supposed to be this huge, all-encompassing musical number. You had everybody in the kingdom singing the song. But it's also just the most mind-numbingly forgettable thing I think that's ever been committed to film. And this is the song to set the tone of your movie. Awful. And also, if the dwarves are mining all these gems and shit for the kingdom, why weren't they there? Aren't they part of the kingdom? Or were you just on some of that mythical creature racism of like, well, this is just for people, not dwarves? I get it if you didn't want Dopey there. You had a small child. I get why you don't want Dopey around the child. But, so also the new characters, that the band of thieves or whatever, Snow White and her merry men or whatever the fuck those were called. I mean, kudos to those people for making some money, but also, why were they there?
I don't know. They were just there.
Just so that one motherfucker could shoot the knife out of her hand with the crossbow? You're telling me no one else in the movie could have done that? You had to create 8 characters just to have one motherfucker shoot it with the crossbow?
I don't understand, Sterling. They didn't develop any of them.
Jastin, do you remember that part when they were like, hey, look at those two. They're in love. Okay. Who are they?
It's like, okay, what does that mean?
One of them doesn't even talk in the whole movie. The one he's in love with doesn't say a word, I don't think.
But okay. They make that a point. They're like, look at those two in love. Is that new? Or have they been together for 27 years? Who knows? Like, what kind of universe is this? The only thing I can relate to any of them is one of those guys, when they're all running away, when they're having like that party, and the whole party was creepily like staring at them before they almost kissed. Weird people. But like, when they're like, oh no, the Queen's Guard's coming or whatever, we got to run. And the one guy went to snag all the Bavarian style pretzels off the table. The only relatable thing in this whole movie. I'm like, I get it. Save the pretzels. Yeah. I would have done the same. But I also don't need that character written into this movie. Because that is the only... If that character is in any other part of this movie, I don't know. I don't know if he was in any scene before that. I just know as the Bavarian pretzel guy. That's the only scene I remember with him. I don't understand any of this. They just had so many characters that did not matter. Like, all these people, when she's at the end of the movie, when she's like, and Steve, remember when you used to pick onions? And he's like, oh yeah, I've got a family and I love them. Fuck the Queen. What? Did this motherfucker stop going home once he became a soldier? Did he just start living in the barracks? Just never went home? Completely forgot he had a family? just one day woke up and he was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm joining the military. And said fuck it to his whole life. But then deep down inside, he knew he did the wrong thing. And so when this princess just goes, man, remember when you used to, you know, pick strawberries? And he went, man, I haven't seen my child in 15 years. I'm going to change that today. What? And like, also, as much as I was like, it's really disgusting that we're like, Gal Gadot is in this movie because she's a beautiful woman. But also, to be fair to us, this movie, when they do the introduction to her character, they're just like, dude, she's like beautiful, and because like she's beautiful, she's powerful, and like she got more powerful because she's beautiful, and you know she's real beautiful, so she had a lot of power, and like with her power came a lot of beauty, and then like that's they spend 8 minutes just talking about her being beautiful and shit. Like fuck. Also, why the fuck do the dwarves have magical gemstone finding powers? With our powers combined, we can find all the gemstones.
That shit never came up again. Those shits lit up and went, and we never found out why or why that's an ability. It never came into play. Why did they have it? They just had it.
And also, do you really need magical gemstone finding powers in that mine that apparently had every gemstone ever all over the place? Every fucking inch of that fucking cave was a gemstone. What the fuck are they mining? They're just all there. And they're like, man, a hard day's work. Is it?
I also like how they're like, oh man, we got to get to work. We're late. And they still just take their sweet time, just walking in unison rhythm together to get to work.
But like, what's their quotas? This has to be the richest kingdom to ever exist. If they are just mining all day, every day, an infinite amount of gemstones. So much so that they're like, we got to keep a schedule. But also, like I said, what are you mining? You go pick that shit like it's a fucking like apples, man. They're just there. They're just there. You just walk around. Dude, at one point, Dopey falls into some perfectly cut diamonds? You mean that shit's already processed? Can't be that hard of work, that's all I'm saying. Can't be that hard of work. That's like going to connect someone's internet and it's just already there. They're just already on the internet and you went, all right, job's done. It's like if you work at McDonald's and just everything's pre-made completely. I know everybody's like, oh, it's no, I'm talking about completely. You just walk in and go, okay, they want a Big Mac, no pickles. You just go to the Big Mac, no pickles shelf and you just hand them a Big Mac. I mean, the economy of this world's got to be fucked. Inflation's just got to be beyond belief. And just nobody in that kingdom cared either. Like, remember how they're just like, man, you know, all those people starving. Apparently, all the people that were soldiers just literally used to be farmers a week before that. Apparently, they give no fucks that people are starving now. Like, it's just so weird. Like, the dynamics of the way they present everything is just weird. And then what the fuck was that scene where that mirror breaks? And she just gets sucked up into the mirror. Is that how the other one ends? How does she die in the first one, Jastin?
She's still the old woman. She's running from the dwarves after Snow White eats the apple and everything. The dwarves come there because of the animals. She's being chased by the dwarves. They go up a mountain and she tries to roll a boulder, use a stick to kind of move a big boulder so it can roll on the dwarves or whatever. But then she falls off the cliff trying to do all of that. And the boulder rolls onto her. You don't see that, but it's obvious that when she falls, the shit rolls on her.
To be fair, I remembered none of that. But I knew this didn't feel right.
Yeah, because it feels like, is the mirror like powering her? Like a mirror smashes so she's gone too? It was very weird.
Yeah, suddenly that was just a thing the mirror does. I don't know. We didn't explain the mirror, so we don't know.
I just don't know, guys. I don't know. And also, can we stop this cliche of, I know we joked earlier about them all wearing white at the end of the movie and whatever. But to me, that seems even worse when they're wearing just the same clothes, but white. Like the Jonathan character, he's literally wearing the same outfit he wore the rest of the movie. It's just now white.
Yeah, and Snow White's iconic dress is just the same dress, but all white.
And the dwarves are sitting there in their dwarf garb, just white. Like, I get what they're trying to show, but also from a visual perspective, they have to know that looks dumb, right? Like, that'd be like me wearing like a tuxedo version of a Henley and jeans. But it's like, but no, it's my tuxedo version, so it's fancy, of a Henley and jeans. There's a reason why no one does that. Because that's not actually a thing. It's just visually dumb.
But Sterling, the movie's called Snow White, so they wore white. I mean, what do you want from them? What do you want from them, Sterling? What do you want from them?
Whatever you were
The name of the
asking
movie
was
is
going to be
Snow
too
White.
much. So,
So they wore white. I mean, is it? So they would just go, well, what do you want from us?
Is this movie called Snow Wears White? No. Which honestly, is that the least offensive thing they did in this movie? Is like, instead of her skin being so white, she's named Snow White, that she was just born in snow. That, like, realistically speaking, I know a lot of people had problems with it. They're like, how dare you have somebody that's half Colombian play a white woman, even though her dad is so Polish and white. But like, do people not understand how weird it is to just say things out loud like, but her skin's not white enough? Not even getting into any weird racism, white supremacy things, anything. But just think about how that sentence, but her skin's not white enough. That's just a weird thought. Regardless of anything else. That's a weird thought. And then when you add everything else into it, because we live in the real world, it's worse. But also, is any human being that white? There's also, I don't know, a healthy human being? You have a severe iron deficiency if you're that fucking white. Like, and that's like grotesque white. Like, you would just see like their veins. That's gross. But like, fuck, dude. Like, just the fact that she looked like mostly white, they're just so mad. How dare somebody look mostly white instead of Snow White? The heresy of it all. The things that people want to, like the hills people want to die on, just boggle my mind. Like, I just, of all the things to get mad at this movie for, that's an issue? That. I don't get it. Because to me, of all the changes from the original story to this, that is the least of my worries. It's actually it's like a fairly reasonable explanation. They're like, oh yeah, she's born during a snowstorm, so we called her Snow White. Doesn't that sound like some shit they would do back in the day? Because, this is also the time period when you're like, oh, your father's a blacksmith, so your last name is Smith. Like, that's just how they used to name people. Oh, your father's a tailor, so your last name is Taylor. Like, that's how they name shit back in the day. Is what is just the circumstances of everything else. That's their name. They're not sitting there looking through like baby books, finding out what the name Christina means or any of that shit. No. Like, what was happening? They're like, I don't know what to name her. And they're like, well, what was happening when she's born? I don't know, some Snow White. And they're like, fuck yeah. That seems like the most reasonable thing that this movie did. Except they had that weird dopey narration over it. God, that was so dumb. What is it with movies trying to do that mystery narrator and then have it just be somebody in the movie and they show it at the end? It's all it was dopey the whole time, guys. They had that child predator ass reading a story to those children. Lock that man up in that dungeon.
The sad thing is, too, I like looking up the cast after this. I'll be honest, like, I actually thought that was Josh Gad narrating because it sounded so much like Josh Gad to me.
He was doing a motherfucking Josh Gad impression.
You know what I mean? But like
you
finding out that
to that opening narration versus like Frozen, it's the same fucking thing.
Yeah, it's Olaf basically narrating, but finding out who it is, and I'm forgetting his name, but he's the guy from No Hard Feelings, who can sing like an angel. So it's a little bit of a shame to have him be dopey when he doesn't even really get to sing.
There's lots, but they had Gal Gadot sing.
Right.
God forbid
this
you
bro
have.
is like Broadway level singing, I'm pretty sure, and he just doesn't get to sing anything at all.
I want to say he was in a production of Little Shop of Horrors.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, he can sing.
Something Barth Feldman.
Yeah, but God forbid they have him sing. He's literally the one character in this movie that doesn't sing.
It could have been anybody.
Oh.
You just made it this guy.
But they dedicated a whole 8 minutes to Gal Gadot singing. A movie of good choices. Final note. Visually speaking, there is a reason why in most body transformation scenes, you don't focus on the person's face during the transition. And you also don't have the person speaking or singing during that. Because it makes everybody's job harder. Because you have to line up CGI with the face and the movements and all that stuff. So if you do it, you don't have them moving, and then you also don't have their mouth moving. Because it's more points to line up. It's more points of failure. And boy, can you tell it when they transform Gal Gadot into that old woman. When she's singing that song and they're transitioning her face, and you look at that going, $270 to $350 million where? Because it looks like shit. It is a more expensive version of the mustache removal failure that was Henry Cavill in the Justice League movie. It is on par with that, with how utterly wretched it looked. And yet people watched this movie at Disney and went, yes. No notes. Don't change a thing. And the sad thing is so much of this movie's failure will lead people to regurgitate their tired mantras of, see, go woke, go broke. When in all honesty, none of that has anything to do with the failure of a movie that this is, or the subsequent box office failure that this movie is. It is failing on the sole reason of it's just a bad movie, and it's making the amount of money a bad movie from the biggest studio in the history of existence putting out there. It's by default gonna make more money than other bad movies just because it's Disney. They've got that type of cachet. They'll make more money on a bad movie than anybody else. But there's a reason why this is bad for even Disney standards. This is going to be in the anthologies of cinema history, right up there with the live action Dumbo remake. And if you forgot that there's a live action Dumbo remake, you are not alone, because no one saw it and no one liked it. Jastin, what you got?
Well, one thing that is kind of abundantly apparent to me is that I just kept thinking, why did this even have to be Snow White? Like, if you're going to change the story and almost damn near everything about it as far as what her character journey was and make her kind of almost this different character entirely, then why couldn't this have just been another character and maybe you tackle some original story or something like that? Like, I didn't really understand. It almost felt like this movie was on a mission to have a better Snow White, but all they had on paper were the things about it that they felt needed to be changed for today. But, and I know that, like, we want strong characters and we want strong female characters and things like that. But, like, when I look back at that of the Snow White, she was a strong character, but it was not because she was the leader of a kingdom or conquering a mountain. Snow White was strong because she was kind and she was gentle and she had an aura of, like, of understanding, and like she had just such an aura of goodness about her. That's why the animals were drawn to her. That's why she connected so much with the seven dwarves. It was her ability to see the goodness in people and see the goodness in things and her situation, no matter how dark it was. She was in rags, sweeping and cleaning in that castle, but still wishing and hoping for a better situation and singing about it and being like, man, I hope. Why does every strong person have to be the person that wins the kingdom or conquers or somehow beats up this evil bad guy or something like that? What's wrong with winning with the strength of your character? What's wrong with winning because you're kind? What's wrong with wishing for things? Is it really that bad to wish for things? Or to be stronger than your dark situation because of your wishful thinking, because of your positivity? You can win because of those things too. You can be strong because of those things too. I'm sick of this mindset that because you have those things, you are weak. And we need to change all of those things about you, and you need to be better than that. It's okay to be kind. You can be strong and be kind. You can wish for things. You can want to be a wife or just a husband. Maybe that is your wish. Maybe that is what you want to do. Maybe you just want to be a wife. Why do I need to come in and go, oh, that's all you want to be as a wife? That's all you want is a good husband? Well, you ought to want to climb a fucking mountain, or you ought to want to save the country or some shit like that. Not necessarily. We don't even understand what real strength is anymore. And so when you put this on the screen and tell me that this is a better Snow White because she's doing all the things the other Snow White didn't do, no, man, not necessarily. Not necessarily.
It used to be that empathy and kindness was considered at least a virtue. And nowadays, especially, empathy specifically, by some people, is called a weakness, called a disease. Just by virtue of being empathetic. Just trying to understand about someone else is considered a weakness, considered a mental disease to some people, a flaw. So much so that it inspires things like with what you're talking about, Jastin, where the kindness as a virtue is kind of stripped away a little bit, just for the sake of wanting her character to be action oriented, when you can also be action oriented in a way of like affecting the outcome of something, you know, being an influence of change, actually being an active part of change. You can still do all that and it just be out of kindness, out of understanding, out of those things. It doesn't have to be that like, oh, you physically did something. It doesn't have to be that change. You can still, I get to a degree of what they're saying when there's like, you want her to be a more active participant in her story instead of a bystander. I get that because there's a lot of elements of Snow White where she is more of a bystander to things. So you want her to be a more active agent in her own story. Okay. That doesn't mean you have to change those things. And I think story-wise, they did change it, but they tried to trick you into saying they didn't.
Exactly.
Oh, but she sang a song about kindness.
Yeah.
Okay. But also, what have we always said? Show, don't tell.
Yeah. We're singing about it, and when the movie felt like doing it, we're showing these acts of kindness, and characters are saying, man, Snow White, you're so kind. But it feels hypocritical because then the next scene is, oh, I've got to do something, or I've got to, I've got to do this thing that my father's not here to do. I've got to do something about my current situation. And yes, that is something that can be relatable, doing something about your situation. But to me, I understand that. But to me, don't lose sight of what actually happened in that movie and what Snow White did influence. The reason why the queen died in that other movie, in the other movie Off the Cliff, was why the dwarves were chasing her. Well, why were the dwarves chasing her? Because they were trying to protect Snow White. Well, why were they trying to protect Snow White? Because she had formed this great bond with them and this friendship with them, and they got to spend time with her, and they saw what a great person she was, and they were like, man, witch, we don't want you, queen witch person, we don't want you to hurt this great person that we have met. She made such a great influence on them with her kindness. They went after that queen. If they went after the queen, they wouldn't have, if she hadn't done that, they wouldn't have given a fuck. They would have been like, oh shit, well, I guess she's dead. Let's go ahead and bury her. I don't know what happened. She ate that apple. I guess something was wrong with it. I don't know. And they would have just buried her and that would have been it. Or they would have been like, well, who is this old woman? Well, damn, I don't know. Well, I guess we'll put this chick in the ground, I guess. Like if she hadn't made those connections, if she wasn't so kind, if she didn't have that aura about her, if she, that's why the animals gravitated to her. That's why even in 1937, back then, that Snow White is still a good character because of those traits and virtues. And I don't know, I feel like if the movie was more about why that's important than everything fucking else, this band of thieves and all this other shit and all this other stuff going on, I think if it had appreciated the significance of that and talked about how that's powerful too, I think this could have been a powerful movie. The power of influence through the content of your character is something that I think translates well today, where we have so many influencers and so many people that are flocking like sheep to these people who have no content of character.
Well, on top of that too, all these people are like, man, Snow White, the daughter of the good queen and the good king. Oh yeah, she's going to be good. We should just follow her. But obviously that's flawed logic, because your good king was also stupid enough to get tricked by this evil queen. So obviously he doesn't really have the best, sense of stuff going on. He left you with this witch woman.
Yeah.
So, but they're just like, oh, by virtue of that, oh, obviously when did she do anything kind for any of these people outside of when she was a fucking small child? And they just accepted it. They're like, hey, after 12 years, she's still the same.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just felt so misguided in that way. 'Cause you're right. It tried to make her this other character that wants to be strong and stand up for her kingdom and all of this kind of stuff and get back what was rightfully hers, all of that good stuff. But at the same time, it was like, oh, but she's kind and she's like the messages were just mixing. And it felt like they were telling us one part of it, but showing us the other part. Like you said, the action oriented. We want her to really take action in what's going on. And the queen, the whole point of the queen is supposed to be the obsession with beauty, right? So why can't we just stay in that lane? That's relevant for today too. The obsession with how you look, the obsession with our obsession with people who are attractive and the influence that a person like that can have. But also the obsession with that and trying to keep that versus, death and mortality and shit like that. Like, why couldn't you take some of those themes about beauty and the mortality and running from it and trying to keep it and try to hold on to it and the power of influence and stuff like that? Why couldn't that have been some of your aim and focus in this rather than all this other shit going on? The queen was just had her hands in too many things. She's obsessed with beauty. And here's the mirror. But she's also greedy and doesn't want to share anything. But she's also a tyrant that's not treating the people right. And everybody in this story is a victim of her. Everybody else is good, including Snow White, including the animals, including the bandits, including the dwarves, the kingdom of people. Everyone is a victim of this one person. So it also sends this weird message of if you just take the leader out, everything is okay. And that's not a good message either.
I mean, I think you really do got to question all those people that just turned their back on the entire kingdom to just enforce her will. Can you really just trust those motherfuckers again? Because when push came to, like, at the very end, when they were like, oh, everybody doesn't like this stuff. I remember being a farmer. I'm on your side now. You really going to trust that motherfucker? Yeah. 2 days ago, he threw your ass in jail for wanting to eat a potato. And now he just cool. Come on.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense for her. Shouldn't there have been some people that were like, no, I like having money and being in this situation. And as long as the queen isn't doing anything to me, I'm good. I just feel like there would have been some people like that too. Like, but it just was weird that everybody was a victim of this person. Everybody was wronged because this one person is over everything. And it feels lazy and just kind of easy to remove that problem and it fixes everything. It just felt, and then the way that they fixed it. And see, this is that thing about having your cake and eat it too. It almost worked against them in this movie because I get, okay, she gives her the knife and Snow White's not going to stab her. She's not going to punch down to her level. Okay, I kind of understand that. And she's not going to win a fight like that because that's not Snow White. She's going to appeal to people and their hearts and everything like that. So I almost get what the movie was aiming for. But if all she had to do was appeal to these people in the first place, why the fuck didn't that happen at any given time that she was in this fucking castle? That's what doesn't make any sense about it. Like, if all you needed to do was talk to people and communicate with them, this message the whole time, and if that was strong enough to turn everybody around, why didn't this just happen sooner? If that's all it took. Why couldn't you have done this sooner?
Also, why did it take her 12 years to realize, hey, maybe things are shitty?
Yeah, like,
She's just
Yeah,
been sitting
and
there
I-
doing all this shit. And then one day she's just like, really? They don't got no potatoes out there. Damn.
yeah. And if a person says, well, she didn't do that because the movie explains she was waiting on her father and she always thought her father would come back and she was waiting and wishing and hoping for her father to come back. Well, then I'm going to say, well, is she really a better Snow White? Because the other Snow White was waiting and wishing for a prince to come that she would love and could be a good wife to. This one was waiting and wishing for her father to come back, who had been gone for that whole time. So what are we saying? Do we want the strong go-getter Snow White, or do we want the waiting and wishing Snow White? We tried to have both of them here. And so then we just wind up doing nothing. Like, it's just the movie is going against itself on all of these things. Like, and then with like the Seven Bandits, it was also weird. Like you talked about it, Sterling, but like, why would you have all these characters and not develop them? Why would you have why do you need 7 other bandits and not develop them when you had 7 dwarves? Any of them could have just fit. You could have had one bandit. Jonathan could have been the only bandit. You know? Or I mean, you know, he could have been the only bandit because you still got to have somebody that she falls for or whatever. But he could have been the only one. Maybe he's the last remaining one and all the other ones have perished. And he's still fighting the good fight for a father because he's Jonathan, you know, the bandit with a heart or whatever. But why did you need it almost could have been, because if all you were going to do was have 8 of them to have a crossbow scene like you're talking about, Sterling, that could have been any one of those dwarves. The dwarf could have thrown a pickaxe at Gal Gadot. It wouldn't have made no difference. And they all could have been there going, oh, great shot, dog. And he could have went, yeah, Grumpy, thank you, or some shit. It would have had the same effectiveness.
Yeah, or just
you didn't need all those motherfuckers.
Just throwing any of that stuff. Like, what did any of those characters do that the dwarfs also weren't doing?
Exactly. It was almost as if, and I did hear a rumor that originally the 7 bandits were going to replace the 7 dwarves. Like, it was going to be the 7 bandits and they weren't going to have the dwarves in it all. But at the last minute, Disney kind of caved and put the 7 dwarves in. Now, I can't say with any evidence that is the truth of what happened. But when you watch this movie, it almost feels like that's what happened.
But they just kept all the scenes they had filmed with the bandits and just kind of added a few things around them.
Yeah. Yeah, just added the dwarves in around. That's what it felt like. Like, it almost felt like that. Or at the very least, they have the dwarves and shoehorn the bandits in. Either way, it looks like something happened there. Like, and to me, the 7 bandits and the 7 dwarves is kind of a microcosm of the whole movie. wanting to have something new, but at the same time wanting to have the original shit so you could check those boxes of the original movie, but not developing either well enough to make any kind of impact at all. And because we have to have these bandits and we have to have Jonathan and we have to have all of that shit, it really diminished her time and her relationship with the 7 dwarves, which is a big part of what Snow White is about. It was her development and time with them that really made the difference in her life. You know, they kept her alive up until the thing happened with the apple and then the prince came along. But that relationship with the dwarves led to ending the problem of the queen. It's just weird here that how they did that. So even when she's spending time with them, you've got these 7 bandits over here she's not spending time with. And so, but either way, either side is not given enough time. Then when they put them all together, it's really just weird. It just, all these scenes are happening and they're having these interactions, and you know, that kind of payoff of, oh man, like in a better movie, you would have been like, man, what happens when the 7 bandits meet the 7 dwarves? But it wasn't even like that. Like, it happened and you were just sitting there going, I don't care about any of this. It's just happening. And so like, yeah, and that's really like what's wrong with this movie, man. It's just, it could never ever get out of its own way. And even with all the new songs, even with all the sort of wrinkles that they added, it was nice to get an explanation of what happened to Snow White's parents, I guess, and where the husband, because none of that stuff's in the original movie. Those were the plot hole things. But if you're going to explain it and then still leave more questions, then what's the point of even explaining it? Why even waste that extra time? And if you're going to explain something that wasn't explained in the original, can we explain this fucking mirror? And how did this bitch get the mirror? Why does she have it? Why does it know everything? Why can it tell her who the fairest is and all of that kind of shit? Like, why don't we have a story yet of how any of this shit occurs? Like, anything. Can you just give me something to make me understand why this chick is evil?
Well, beauty. Beauty is the root of all evil, Jastin.
I guess so. But
also,
damn, I mean, can we come up with something? You know?
Well, Jastin, what you're positing there is potentially what we would call maybe the story they should have told. What would have been a movie people would actually maybe want to see the most? A remake of Snow White, or the magical history or story behind the magic mirror?
Exactly. What, doesn't that seem like a more interesting story? I mean, that could kind of be fun. Maybe it's a family curse. Maybe it started with these older family members, a grandmother or great grandmother or something that was obsessed with their beauty. Maybe something happened. Maybe somebody, or maybe one of them had a kid and one had 2 kids, and one they thought was beautiful and the other kid they thought was ugly. And maybe she got rid of the other kid, and then it was some sort of, or killed them or something crazy, something horrible. And it's like, man, well, since you did that, you're going to be cursed. You're going to be obsessed with beauty forever. And you're going to have to carry around this mirror forever and be obsessed with it. Maybe the queen that we have now had a chance to overcome that, but instead, but it would have you could get rid of the mirror. Maybe you could get rid of the curse, but the cost would be you'd have to be a little uglier. Like, you won't be you could get rid of the curse, but you would have to give up some of your beauty. And maybe the queen just could not think of a life where she would be less beautiful. So she'd rather have the curse and deal with the mirror than to not be as pretty as she is. Maybe something fun like that.
Well, think about all of these live action remakes they've done where, some of them fail, some of them do whatever. Like, what they could have done better, and I think would have been honestly more like successful. Think about Aladdin. Don't remake Aladdin. I like the Aladdin remake, but don't remake Aladdin. Tell us the story of the genie. They released The Lion King years back. They released Mufasa last year. What if you had just done Mufasa instead?
Yeah. You should have just done Mufasa from the get-go.
Do the history of the magic mirror, or even just maybe the history of the dwarves. Just tell us one of the other side stories like that. Tell us the story of Beauty and the Beast, but just like the years that Beast was alone in the castle with those people, with all the furniture and all that stuff. Like, tell us that part. Like, what's the missing? What was it like then?
Yeah.
Little Mermaid. What's the story behind Ursula and Triton? Because I want to say they're brother and sister, technically, in the original animated movie. Tell the story of that. How did Ursula become Ursula? There are interesting stories there that you can tell.
Yeah.
Based on your properties.
Yeah. And you don't just have to redo the same thing. And the funny thing is that
sometimes.
Haven't they done this before?
They did it with
like
Mufasa. Maleficent, Mufasa, Cruella.
Yeah.
They've done it.
Yeah.
Just keep doing it.
Exactly. And there are people that really like those movies. There are people that like the Maleficent movies.
I can't speak to those. Cruella's pretty good.
Yeah, Cruella.
Yeah, just do that.
So I don't understand why you have to do this. Because to me, that's a more interesting story. What happened? Why does she have this magic mirror? I just feel like there's something there with that. There's a good story there about the obsession with beauty and like, I just, why do they keep doing this, man? Like, but yeah, it just wasn't it, man. And so,
really
sorry,
quick
go
with
ahead.
the mirror thing, I was going to say, like, even if they had given us a little bit more background on like what this mirror is or why she has it, the fact that her breaking the mirror destroyed her would have made more sense. If it's like, oh, her obsession controls her so much that when this mirror breaks, everything about her breaks too. Anything like that would have mattered more to us if we got a little bit more about what is the actual story of this mirror and why does she have it in the first place.
Yeah. It almost feels like it's got to be some sort of a curse. Like, it makes no sense for this person to just go up to this mirror, and if this mirror knows and can see everything, the only question you got for this motherfucker is, am I still the prettiest? It just feels like, wouldn't you use it for everything? It knew that Snow White was still alive and where Snow White was. Oh, she's chilling in the house with the 7 dwarves, still prettier than your ass. If it knew all of that, why? I mean, if it knew all of that, why aren't you using this to do everything ever? You should never have been ever toppled or beaten with a resource like that. And you have black magic. And you have black magic. There's no reason for you to be losing with a mirror that can essentially tell you anything that you want. And you have a mirror.
Well, but on top of that too, it's, and I think the reason why it is what it is because they spent so much time in this movie, remember, telling you because she was so beautiful, she was so powerful. Like, you don't even have to have it be an obsession with beauty. That's the means to an end for her obsession with power. That's what it really is. She's got an obsession with power. But to maintain that power based on her, I don't know, the whatever rules she has for her magic is she has to be beautiful to have her magic. So that's why she's then obsessed with her beauty, because that's the only way to maintain her power. So you don't even have to have it ultimately really be about an obsession with beauty. It's an obsession with power, which is, I don't know, the story of 90% of all villains in the recorded history of everything. So you're telling me you can't write that relatable story?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, and if Snow White, and if all you cared about was killing Snow White, why does there need to be this big, intricate spell? I mean, if you knew her location and knew exactly where she was, why couldn't you have sent any other soldiers?
Why? She went, go find this woman. But the second she's like, oh, she's still alive, I'll go find her. She went straight there.
Yeah. She had no problem finding it. And that was turning herself old. So she's walking, she's an old woman walking through the forest and stuff like that. And I get she has magic and shit, but still, she's an old woman at this point. She has turned herself into this horrid old woman appearance or whatever. And she's walking all the way there, had no trouble finding it. Why didn't you just end her? Just break a sword or something and just end her. Why does there need to be this intricate poison apple thing and I need to trick you into doing it? Now, maybe because somehow this settles her need to manipulate. Maybe that's part of that power and that influence she needs. And I understand that she needs to manipulate. It wasn't enough to just kill Snow White. She needs to feel like she manipulated her or made her kill herself or something like that. Well, fucking explain that shit. If that's going to be a part of it, then we need to understand the character and understand why she's doing it this way. But if all you say is, well, she just wants her dead so she can be the most beautiful, well, then I'm thinking, well, then why don't you exact every means to kill her?
She also could have just been like, hey, let's send word that her father's back and then she'll come back here. Like, you could have just done that.
She would have came back in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
That's a great point, Heather. Like, she would have came back in a heart. So, like, what is the queen doing? And because you're not developing her, we don't understand her. We don't understand. I don't understand. Why are you doing it this way? You know, why are you doing it this way? In the other one, she didn't have any of those resources. She was sneaking and doing this because the princess was still the princess. She hadn't been made a prisoner. There was no crime she committed. There was nothing like that. So the queen in that one had to sneak and do this shit.
This is aimless. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But here, if all you wanted was her dead and you didn't give a fuck because you were big evil and everybody knew you were evil, then just do it. Just get it done. Just get it done. And see, that's the classic thing of, we need the poison apple and the kiss because that was in the original, but you've changed everything so much. Having that shit in here doesn't even fucking fit. This queen would not have given a fuck about that. She would have just been trying to kill her. So, yeah. But anyway, Heather, I'll let you go. I'm just going to get more mad.
Do it, Heather. Make Jastin more mad.
No, I mean, that's true. Like, the more you talk about that too, it feels like the queen was aimless with anything she did. Like, she acted like Wile E. Coyote, just always getting defeated by something stupid that could have been avoided. Like, that's kind of the vibe we get here with this. Like, I don't know. It's, yeah. And one of my biggest things that I wanted to talk about with this film, which is something that you guys sort of already mentioned in a different area, is the song Princess Problems. So that for me is like, I think it's just a very pointless song in this movie because essentially that's a song where Jonathan is telling Snow White, you know, oh, you know, like life's not fair and welcome to the real world and, you know, toughen up and all these things, which is completely unjustified given what Snow White's story is. Like, I get like it could be one of these like, you know, he doesn't really know her well at this point. He just knows she's a princess, but like her response back to that shouldn't also be like, well, you have to have hope and not be selfish. Like your response back could be like, no, like everything you're reading about me is wrong. Like this is just not actually, you don't know anything I've been through. Like you could have said that instead of just like, but I like having hope. It's like, yeah, in general, you're right. It's a good thing to still have hope and still try to make things better. But I don't know. And I know it can probably be interpreted as like, she's just letting it go because she never complains like about anything in her life anyway or whatever. But like this story is just not deep enough for that to have been why she didn't say that. You know, like if you made a whole song about something that doesn't even fit the narrative of this movie, like, because that's exactly what the song did. And I don't know if it was just me, but it just bothered me so much because I'm like, why do we have this song in here? Like it genuinely just doesn't make sense with, for one, really what's happening in the scene that it plays in, or like what's going on right before that, but also in general, like that's not Snow White's story. Like she is not this spoiled, entitled brat. So that just, it doesn't really fit the narrative of the film at all. You know what I mean?
Now that you say that, Heather, you know what it feels like, because you're absolutely right. Like even in the song we saw before that, she was singing about trying to make better of her situation. And I gotta stand up for myself and blah, 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 blah. So when he's singing that, it almost feels like it's a mean-spirited, backhanded sort of way of making fun of the old Snow White. That's all it feels like to me. She's calling her all of those things, but it's a commentary on the old Snow White. You know, you need to stand up for yourself. You need to stop wishing for things. You need to start. And see, that's why it's so misguided, bro. Like, I feel like this was was this made by somebody who hated the original? Just all of it?
Everybody that wants to complain about Rachel Zegler having some disparaging things to say about the old one, all this other stuff. If you watch this movie, it's not her. The movie has a disdain for it.
Attitude reflects leadership.
Yeah.
Well, of course she's going to say all those things on the press tour and think she's saying the right things. Because the script she read and the movie she made said that.
Exactly. It's striking at the other Snow White.
But it's one of those things, too, that is weird that they're striking at it for that, because isn't the original Snow White like 14 or 15? So,
you
know, maybe it's okay for a 14 or 15-year-old to just kind of have hopes and dreams.
Exactly.
And not maybe be the architect of their entire life and kingdom at that point. Maybe it's okay, just hopes and dreams. That's fine. They're a child.
Right.
That's what their life should be. When you're 14 or 15, you should be thinking about you have your life ahead of you.
Yep.
Not, what do I need to do to fix my life right now?
Yeah. I mean, and like the thing is, the song doesn't even play as like just get your head out of the clouds type of thing. It played as if he was saying like, oh, you're spoiled and you don't know anything about the real world because you're just a princess. And it's like, that's literally the opposite of her story. Like especially in this movie, like, you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense for anything. And again, it's like, okay, even if it was just supposed to be him misjudging her, have her say something in the song of her part saying like, you know, you're misjudging me, or like all she says is like, oh, well, that's really nice of you to say, but I just still think you should have hope. Like, I feel like that's the gist of what this song is saying. And it doesn't really speak to any depth of who she is as a character back to him. She's just taking it. She's just taking it and saying like, oh no, I still think you should have to have hope. Like, but not explaining anything about like, I'm this strong, independent woman for years and years, and this is why I have hope. Anything would have been better than just not responding to him at all, really.
Well, on top of that, too, their first interaction was
Her being kind.
Well, but also her being prisoner.
Yep.
So much so that he had no idea she was a princess.
Yeah.
Because she was
He had
doing
no idea.
non-princess shit.
And when he found out, it was because he was a prisoner, and she was like, listen, queen, this isn't fair. You need to let him go. Standing up for herself. Literally, like, this song is the opposite of everything she shows in the
And
movie.
standing up for him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's
She's
just
standing
like,
up to the queen, but also standing up for somebody not herself. She's being very selfless. And you know what I mean? Like, it's just opposite of how he feels like he's talking about her in the song.
it's to say, you could call her, in that song, you could call her naive. That's not inaccurate within the context of this movie. But just to say that she has like no agency or no anything of wanting things to be different is untrue. Like, she might be ignorant of what needs to change, but he witnessed multiple times, because she also rescued him and untied him and gave him a little potato or bread or whatever the fuck he gave her. Like, or she gave him, like. So she witnessed all that. Or he witnessed all that. And it's so to say that she has no desire for change or anything like that, when all the evidence he has at that point is anytime she is presented with the information that situations are bad, things are unjust, things need to change, her immediate reaction is yes, and tries to do so. I get, like I said, calling her naive, but to act like she's just spoiled and has no desire for any change or, you know, any of that other stuff is wrong. And he, more than anybody, would know that, because every interaction he had had with her to that point was a direct contradiction to just saying, hey, you're spoiled and don't care.
Yeah, like, it's not like she's got these rose-colored glasses on because her life is perfect. It's just she's trying to, in spite of how bad things are for her, still be like, but it's going to get better, and I want it to get better, and I want to be the change to help that. Like, and, you know, and I think there's some kind of line there's some lyric in that song where he says something like, well, I'd rather just make sure I live, or something like that. And I'm like, bro, like, she's kind of the reason you're alive right now, because she told the queen to let you go. But okay. Like, it was just an annoying, like, yeah, it's maybe one of the catchier songs, but it was just annoying because I'm like, where does this fit into anything else happening in this story? Like, it doesn't fit into any of it. So it just really bothered me. That was probably one of my biggest problems with the film at all, was that song. But yeah, like, it just, and also it was funny too, how they have these ideas of who the other is that they're telling us on, like, as they're on screen, but none of the actions line up with it, because when she's like telling one of the other, you know, bandits, oh, I just think he's selfish. And then he's like, well, he took an arrow for you. And I was like, yeah, like, where did you think that came from? Why did you think he was, like, had an arrow through him? You, like, what do you mean he's being selfish? Like, you just saw him get hit with an arrow because he jumped in front of you or whatever.
And it's
like,
it's not like he was just sitting there and then went down with an arrow. He went, no, like.
Yeah. And she might have not seen exactly what was happening, but she kind of gathered the context clues of what happened there. Like, oh no, and jumping in front of you. And then there's an arrow in him. But she's still just like, oh, he's just a selfish man. Like, what? How? I don't understand. Nothing that you're saying lines up with the actions happening in this movie. It's very weird. And I don't, like, it just feels lazy. Kind of like something you mentioned, Jastin. It's just like, it feels like they didn't even try in some parts, because they were just like, we need to fill the time slot of this movie until our next song goes. So let's just do this. Like, I don't, the filler scenes just were so confusing. You know what I mean? It was just very, very weird.
Well, to comment directly on what you're talking about, it's a very weird movie in that regard, because not only do none of the scenes that are like actual remake scenes work, none of the additional scenes do either. It's this weird juxtaposition of old scenes don't work, new scenes don't work, just not a damn thing works.
Yeah. I mean, and I also get that this is playing on like the fairy tale of like, you just fall in love so fast and all these things. But because of, again, what we mentioned earlier about just the fast pace of, you don't get to sit with any actions that happen in this movie. She's just like, you're selfish. Oh, I guess you're not. You took an arrow for me. I love you. Wake me up with a kiss. Like, just so immediately. And
it was still too fast. Yeah. Great point. It still didn't feel
you're
like
not invested in
developed
this.
love. It still was too fast.
Well, yeah, so they have them meet earlier in this movie than they did the other one. All this other stuff. They had 40 minutes to the runtime, all kinds of stuff like that. But you added 40 minutes to the runtime. 30 minutes at the beginning of the fucking movie, though. Like 30 minutes is there. Like, come on. It's how do you add time to a movie, but still go, hey, you remember how everything was way too fast in that first one? Yeah. Don't change it. Add everything else, though.
Yeah. Like, you can't invest in any situation or any relationship or dynamic because it's just, you don't get a chance to. They've already moved on by the time that you've sat with what just happened or what was just said. Like, it's just very, it feels like this is a line of dialogue I have to say. And then you're like, all right, this is me having to respond to that dialogue right after you said it. Like, that's just how this movie is for pretty much the most part. And also one scene that I actually think might have been the worst scene, and there's a lot of bad scenes in this. The scene when the huntsman is taking Snow White out because he's supposed to kill her. And like, he like threatens her with this knife. And I'm just like, this is the most non-threatening threat that I've ever seen, because you feel like he's like struggling to be like, oh, I don't want to put the knife, but I got to do it. And like, just the way it plays is very silly. And her reaction to it is also like, what? You know, she does the deer in headlights look, and then he decides not to do it. And then she gives the biggest like dramatic sigh of relief that I've ever heard. And it just was a weird, like, you're supposed to feel tension that he wants to kill her. And like, even her reaction to him holding the knife, she's just like, why? Like, give me, like, aren't you afraid? You don't look like you're actually afraid here. And that's what I mean about those in-between scenes with Rachel Zegler. And like, not to harp on it again, because again, she was definitely the best thing about this movie. But those in-between moments, I'm like, no, I'm not with it, because you're not with it in this scene. And this, you know, and then he's like outraged of fear. And he's like, you've got to go before I change my mind. And it doesn't read well on the screen with how they did that. It was a truly jarringly bad scene to me. But yeah, I don't know. And like, I know I had mentioned like they did some changes, which we've talked pretty much about those changes, like her name being Snow White because of the storm. It kind of feels lazy, but at the same time, like after you explain that, what you said, Sterling, about like back then, that's sometimes just how they did it. I'm like, you know what? You're right. That kind of makes sense. It's just a very straightforward type of thing. But again, the original reason for her name is also not the best. Like, she's just a super pasty person. Like, that's why her name is Snow White. Like, there's not a really good reason in either scenario where her name is Snow White. And then I feel like the dopey storyline wasn't needed. Like, it was just kind of not, it wasn't really necessary to like make him this very important side character. Like I get what they were doing, but again, like you don't get to invest in even the dwarves that much here. The only thing I really liked about them is they had some really good harmonies together. They sang well together, which is also upsetting to me because Titus Burgess plays Bashful, and I love Titus Burgess. He is from Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. He's in Schmigadoon. He is hilarious. He's great. He's a wonderful singer. And I didn't know that was him until I just looked him up on the cast. Because also, why do we have these fantastic singers that aren't actually singing in this movie? I mean, in the harmonies, sure, but like aside from that, there's no solo numbers from these dwarves or anything like that. So I'm bummed out about it. But anyway, all of that to say, like the Dopey storyline, they really wanted that to be this really heartwarming, wholesome thing. And I see what they were trying to do with it, but you don't really get to sit with it enough to really feel that development of it. And like I don't remember the first one as well, but I feel like the other dwarves really picked on him in this one. Was that a thing in the original? Because they really were just laughing at him a lot in this movie.
Well, Dopey was the comedic relief.
Yeah. But in this, he's not comedic relief. He's just sad when he gets laughed at because he just fumbles around. And it's just sad.
There's just no comedy in this whole movie.
It's not like he does silly things, but it's not like he's, you know what I mean? Like he does them, but then he's laughed at in like they're picking on me way. And so he just gets sad when they laugh at him, and it's not funny because it's just sad because they're just making fun of him at that point. So I'm like, that was not
You're
great.
right. It's bullying. They seemed like jerks. Like
Yes.
it seemed like it was bullying, and they just really looked, the other dwarves just really looked like jerks in that moment when she went outside with him so that could happen. But in the other one, just like they said in conversation, they've known each other for hundreds of years or something like that. They're all used to each other. They know how each other act. Yes, he was dopey or kind of silly and goofy or whatever, but it was in an endearing sort of way. Like, oh, dopey, he's just this way. Oh, sneezy is gonna sneeze. Oh, grumpy,
Right.
you're gonna have a problem with some shit. They know each other. So him picking on him, them all laughing at him and picking on him and kind of bullying him in that moment, and him going outside sad, like, what you're saying then is that this happens all the time.
Yeah.
And that makes the rest of the dwarves look like absolute jerks.
Yeah.
So it's not that, like they've known each other and they have this relationship, whatever. No, for hundreds of years, Dopey has been monumentally depressed.
Yes.
And had
And nobody asked him about it.
not a single person to talk to or to care for him or anything. For hundreds of years, this man has just been horribly and utterly ravaged with depression until Snow White.
That's a hella bummer.
And you know it's serious when I'm saying it because that man is a pedophile.
But no, but you're right though, because it's like these people, like these dwarves have known each other for how long, and at least it was like nobody understood him. They were just like, I don't know, he just doesn't talk. It's like nobody figured out until Snow White that like, oh, he's actually afraid to talk or anything like that, or like, oh, he's a clumsy guy, but we love him anyway. That's not that vibe. It's just like I don't understand why he doesn't talk, but look at him. He's stupid. That's what it feels like. And it's really sad because you're just like, oh, like, I don't really like the dwarves that much. Even Doc, even Happy, they were just rude and bullying. It was weird. So that takes you out of really feeling like endeared to any of these characters or any of these dwarves because of that. They want you to only like Dopey is what they did in this movie. which is why he's the only one that really gets a backstory in a sense, or like this side character type of story that he has. So I didn't think it was necessary. And if they were going to do more of him, they should have definitely done it in a less sad way to where it makes all the other dwarves feel like douchebags. So I don't know. And then there was, again, we had talked about like the evil queen and how her death is very different here. It's tied to this mirror that she broke. So she essentially like also didn't seem to realize that breaking this mirror was going to destroy her. They needed to do something different with that or explain that more, because you're just kind of like, oh, she's really angry. She's so angry at the mirror for telling her she's not the most beautiful. Break. And then she's like, oh no, I'm not even existing anymore. Like that's how it played out. That's basically just what happened in this movie. You're just like, cool. So the whole time we could have got rid of this queen by just breaking her mirror. Is that what we're saying? Like nobody, I don't know. It's just, I didn't care for how they did her ending like that.
Yeah,
or
so
like,
it could have been shattered, being delivered to the castle.
Right.
By the couriers or whatever. They could have shattered it on accident. She just would have died. She would have just went to dust right there.
And also with her temper, like she probably other times would have like thrown something at it if she was mad at what it said. Although she wasn't really asking it anything other than if she was the most beautiful. But still.
And I like how they're like, yep, every day she just went to double check.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it was just, it needed to be a different reason for how she died or explained better. Like, oh, because her heart was becoming colder and colder, she was uglier and uglier. And so the mirror stripped away her power. And when she got mad at the mirror, it destroyed her too. Anything. It didn't explain anything. So, yeah.
Oh, but the mirror did explain something that was bullshit. At the end when it went, this is Snow White will always be more beautiful than you because of her inner beauty. What the fuck? This whole time? So what about the times you were telling her she was the most beautiful? Like,
yeah, she's been around for 20 years at this point.
Did she have the inner beauty?
Dude, she had been there for at least 18 years or whatever, being a big piece of shit. And every day...
I'm talking the biggest, smelliest piece.
Just horrible. Just
that one that hurts when it comes out.
Being
that kind.
A decrepit person. Just an utter evil being to an entire kingdom. Not even just to her stepdaughter. To an entire kingdom. And that mirror's just like, you know what? You're still hot.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, the mirror all of a sudden goes, you know what? I don't give a fuck that you're hot. That woman's got inner beauty, and that's all I care about now is the magic mirror, is that inner beauty. I have excused decades of horrendous behavior because of your hotness. But you know what? Today's the day. I draw the line, and I say, no matter what, she's hotter than you on the inside where it counts. This magic mirror, this inanimate object that has been enchanted by some form or whatever. Now I have morals.
Yep.
Yeah. What I'm hearing is the mirror had more character growth than anybody else in the movie. If this is the narrative we're getting, it like she's all that at the end. She's all thatted at the end of it. Like just, yeah. Like why wasn't that any sort of underlying, like here, fine print, she's more beautiful because she's also beautiful on the inside. Literally, like she's been around for years.
How long was Snow White out in the forest? Like 3 days?
Something like that.
So in 3 days, that mirror goes, you know what? Fuck outer beauty. It's that inner beauty that counts. In 3 days.
Yeah,
like,
that did not add up at all. Yeah, like, yeah, it was just no. I mean, and like some things that I kind of liked in a way that they did change were Again, like adding that line in that one song about, you can wake me with a kiss, because even though correct, it was not the best way to incorporate that it was consensual. There's at least something in there that tells us in a way that it is a consensual thing when he does it. So I guess for that, I'll say I liked that they changed that. And like the whole thing about, no prince, right? Like there's no prince that she wants. She's not trying to, fall in love with this prince or whatever. I'm fine with this. You know what I mean? Like, again, it's really the same thing, except the guy's just not a prince. He's just a bandit instead of a prince, but it's the same story. And, if you want, like, it would be weird or interesting to figure out how they do the story of she is, dead and has to be awakened with true love's kiss. Like, how do you do that part of the story without there being some kind of love interest? But again, like, I'm fine with that change because I guess they're going with like, she finds love with somebody who challenges her, somebody who does like her for who she is, if you take out the Princess Problem song. And like the narrative in my head is also that they're much, much closer in age than the ones in the original. So we're just going to go with that and hope for the best. So I liked that change as well, because it's like, oh, even if she was technically the princess or had the rights, of being a princess, she wasn't like, oh, but I also have to find a prince. It was just like, oh no, like I'm just finding somebody that I'm in love with, like I liked that they did that change. I'm fine with that. So yeah, that was a change that didn't bug me as like some of the other ones did. Yeah, so those were just a couple of things for me that kind of bugged me, apart from the general consensus of things that were wrong with it. And like, especially what you were saying about how the dwarves look. Like it was bad. And again, so many, because at first I was like, oh, I get what they're doing. They have 7 bandits for him and she has 7 dwarves. Like they just like, these are my 7 friends or whatever. But then you're right. It's like, but why? Why do we need it? Like, was it trying to say, oh, see how similar they are? They're the same person. They have like, what is this? Like, is the world actually the mirror and she's just looking at a version of herself? Like, I don't know. It just didn't need to be a thing, because like you said, there was no character growth or no point in having that many characters that were just there to say nothing except for, oh, 2 of us like each other and I'm good with an arrow. Like literally it could have been anybody else. You know what I mean? It could have been one of the villagers that hates her that was just like, no, I'm going to throw this arrow. Or one of her guards, one of the farmers that is now a guard. It could have been one of them to do it. They make so many weird choices that they focus on, but they don't focus on the big picture in general of the story. So it's a very confusing film altogether.
And a very bad film.
That, yes.
I want to get down to the root of it. It's bad.
Fair.
Anything else? You guys got anything else?
No, it's not worth any more energy.
Yeah, it's not. Let's put it to bed.
All right. On that note, thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Cinema Slayers podcast. Check us on the internet at www.cinemaslayers.com. We're Cinema Slayers Podcast on Facebook. We're Cinema_Slayers on Instagram, Threads, and Letterboxd. Almost forgot that one. We're at Cinema Slayers Pod on TikTok and YouTube. Give us 5-star rating review. Really appreciate it. Really help us out. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your family's friends, tell your friends' families. Most of all, tell those dear sweet mothers, because dear sweet mothers love
consent.
Val Kilmer. Close.
Oh, Val Kilmer. Yeah.
Shout out to Plug Migo and Mundo Ochoa for our theme song and logos, respectively. We here at the Cinema Slayers podcast are pro Sydney, pro naked, and pro steak fingers. Told you I'd remember for this one. We are pro steak fingers.
Are we pro Val? We pro Val Kilmer?
Yes,
Always.
undoubtedly.
Okay.
Pro Val. We here at the Cinema Slayers podcast also say justice for Chris, justice for Todd, justice for all those wonderful stunt people, caterers, and animators for all the work they do to make our movie-going dreams possible. And you. Yes, you Cinefans, you are enough. You are worth more than Snow White. You don't deserve this. We took this bullet so you wouldn't have to. So don't do it. Don't. I implore you, please, don't watch this movie. And as I always end the YouTube videos, the TikToks, and most importantly, this podcast, just remember, according to Jastin, Snow White ain't when it's shit. I can't say that. It's probably going to win a Razzie or two.
Yeah, right.
Go win
It's
that
fine.
Razzie. You can't tell me,
Dude.
as of right now, in the beginning of April, Gal Gadot ain't right now the lock for worst acting in a movie.
Dude, that cooking Gal Gadot food.
Dude.
Wonder Woman getting cooked, bro.
Yeah,
She's getting cooked, bro.
it's going to be some Razzie contention. I'm penciling now. It's going to win at least one golden raspberry.
Yeah.
Anything else, guys?
I feel like dopey right now. No.
Yep.
I do have one more thing. Because I did not say it this entire episode, so I'm saying it now. Fuck this movie.
You know what? I'm
Oh, yeah,
proud
I
of
knew
you.
something
Just
was
held that
missing.
in.
I was trying to hold it. It's a family movie.
Oh, that's true.
We got to do this podcast after dark. Fuck this movie.
Fair.
So, yeah. That was weirdly intentional on my part.
Respect.
Because I wanted
Nice.
to go in my diatribe very early on. Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm. All right, later.